we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello and welcome to the Tuesday night edition of Spaced Out Radio Tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate you tuning us on in, as we like to have a lot of fun around here. Tonight should be fun, as Preston Dennett and Dolly Safran are here to talk UFOs and cryptids. Is there a connection? We're going to get into that momentarily. But first, we have to say hello to each and every one of you. Tim Mothman in the gold medal position. Race Fan with a silver. Wildberry with a bronze medal tonight. Hello, Robert Lamoth, Chris 716, James Horn, Eternity Eternal. Good to have you all here. Hi, Brown Dwarf and Lee the Bee. How you doing? Laura Lobbs and Desert Rat. Good to see you both. Deidre, how you doing? How's Vancouver Island? Please let me know. Scrolling on down. Hi, Chris. Teen, good to see you, and we appreciate you tuning us on in as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Let us say hello to number 26 in your program, starting at right wing from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Lars will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Hi, John Lamb, and who else here? Tim Mothman and his goatee, and Cosmic Joe, JSCO, Mr. Cowley. Good to have you all here. Hello, Phyllis Boucher Perry. Thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call here. Digger Dog, nice to see you, my man, as we continue on here. And there's Melvin from Mars, otherwise known as Rayfin, but he's changed his name. Good to see you here. W. Decker, thank you for joining us, and thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Continuing on with our roll call. And let's say hello to Mama Catherine. Mwah! I love you, Mama Catherine. We're getting closer to hanging out, and I'm going to get that big hug. I need it. Yep. Sandra Kincaid, nice to see you. By the way, Sandra, I put my CPAP up, put the pressure up by 1, and I slept like a log last night. Slept like a log. Continuing on here. You know what? We've never done this before. Preston Dennett is in the chat room as well. Preston will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Don't make eye contact. He doesn't like it. Nope. He doesn't like it. Luscious Jules, nice to see you. Paramarv, how are you? Millennium, a man. Thank you for coming on in. Thomas Rock, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call here. W. David Page, good to have you back. Audacious Amber, thank you for coming on in. Jeff Steve Garvey, he'll hit a home run for you. Christine Lynn, thank you for joining us. Hi, Deer Slayer. And who else is next here? Aloha Dave, thank you for coming on in. There's Human Carl, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. We love you, Human Carl, and thank you for your service. Continuing on here, Karen in the Woo Train. Algaray over on Twitch, welcome back. He was leg pressing 650 tonight. Yeah, leg pressing 650. Continuing on here, who's over on Facebook here? Let's take a look here. Well, apparently nobody, but apparently there's somebody. Can't figure it out. Oh, it's Drew Hurst Beeson. Good to have you here. And who else here? Roger Blair. Thanks for coming on in. Ruth Kleber, Pam Harris, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Me Woikin. Dolly Safran's in the chat room as well. Alex Oyen under the veil. Welcome to SOR chat. Glenn John McEnroe, the pride of Wimbledon. Good to have you here. Operation Shutdown. Let's get the radio side going here. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Preston Dennett and Dolly Safran are here talking about UFOs and cryptids as Bill WD-40 has entered the chat room. He is lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. We're continuing on with Roll Call. Superknower, Cypher, good to have you both here. Hi, John Loban and Dragonfly. Thanks for coming on in. Amy Vegas O, looking lovely tonight, Amy. We love you. Scrolling on down. Richard Elmore, good to see you. Marty Burback, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Vanessa. Science Melinda. Jojo, welcome to SOR chat again, I believe. And, who else is here? Little Kilroy, good to see you. And, we got like 5 seconds here before we are going to launch. Hi, Ozzy Ange, Matthew Goodka, good to see you both. Do me a favor, horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of awesomeness tonight as Preston Dennett and Dolly Safran, the UFO Woo power couple, is here hanging on out, talking about the connection between UFOs and cryptids. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton joins us from Among the Missing. And right after that, the man, the myth, and the legend from the Cree Nation, Travis Willier-Mustus, will be here for the Cryptid Report. Preston Dennett began investigating UFOs and the paranormal way back in 1986 when he discovered that his family, friends, and coworkers were having dramatic unexplained encounters. Since then, he has interviewed hundreds of witnesses and investigated a wide variety of paranormal phenomena. He's the author of probably like 700 books on this subject. Yeah, I may be exaggerating on that number, but either way, he is the most diligent man pumping out incredibly informed books to read. If you need to add somebody to your UFO library, Preston is the man when it comes to it. You can find all his books at prestondennett.weebly.com. And then we have his better half, Dolly Safran, where when she was just 14 years old, she gazed out the window in her home in Florida. Without warning, a UFO dropped from the sky and hovered in her backyard. To her shock, Dolly could see the thin, gray-skinned fingers with large, dark eyes staring back at her. She dove under her bed to hide, but guess what? It didn't work. She's got aliens now, and she loves chatting about them. Dolly Safran, Preston Dennett, thank you so much for coming back on Spaced Out Radio. How are you guys?
Doing well. Doing very good. Hope you are too.
You know what I love about having you guys on this show every couple of months is every time we talk, it's something new. You guys, I would say, are the hardest workers and best ambassadors for ufology that is out there. And I mean that with all love and respect. And I don't know how you guys do it. You guys are all in on this subject. And Dolly, I really think it needs to be commended, the hard work that you guys put in. Thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Are you muted, Dolly? I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
Dolly's got to unmute herself. There we
Woohoo!
go.
I'm back. Thank you. It's an honor. Absolute honor. Thank you.
What keeps you guys going, Preston? Why do you put in so much effort, so much love, so much passion into these subjects?
It's a good question. I don't really know, honestly. I'm obsessed. I kind of blame the ETs a little bit. I love doing it. I mean, it's endlessly fascinating. You go down one rabbit hole, it leads to two. Next thing you know, you're down deep in the rabbit warren and uncovering all these amazing treasures. I love the people. It's always interesting meeting new people who have these incredible encounters. And then when you start having stuff happen yourself, well, you're all in. I don't know. Once you're a member, you're in for life.
I would agree with that. I mean, just going back by last night's show where I had Samantha Mowat on, and we've been friends for 10 years yesterday. And 25 minutes after meeting her, she takes me into a forest to be face to face with an extraterrestrial. I mean, these situations are so weird and they just seem to happen. This is happening a lot more, Dolly, than we actually know of. But most people keep these stories quiet. When you had your experience, why did you decide as an experiencer to come out and share your incredible story?
Well, I'd been quiet most of my life about it. I didn't decide to come out until about 8 years ago. And it was because I became frustrated. I started paying attention to what was going on around here on this planet. I mean, I knew from their perspective what was happening, but I wanted to see for myself. So I started delving into it. And it just made me a little bit weirded out because y'all don't know what I know. And it became very important to me to start spreading the truth about what's really going on. And when I told my ET pals about it, they said, well, we need to brief you on a few things. You're about to embark on something huge and you need to know what to look at. And so they spent about 6 months to a year walking me through the process of what I was about to go do. And then when I did, I was met with unbelievable shock because I started listening to ufologists talking and people on podcasts, and I started to look at books, which I had never done before that. And I became confused because everybody has a different take on it. And there's no cohesive reality going on around here about it. No, there's no consensus about it in the community of ufology. And I thought, oh my God, what do I do now? And I went back to my ET contact, Talata, and said, I don't know what to do. And he very proudly gave me Preston's name, made me write it down. And I wrote to him an email, and he wrote me back. And the reason that I did that is I went to his YouTube page and I found his oldest video. It was on healings. And I thought, oh my God, he knows what he's talking about. And he's not making things up, and he's reporting facts, and statistical data and things like that. And when I wrote him, he came back within 24 hours and wrote me back and said, well, let's talk. And it just went from there. And he is obsessed, exactly obsessed. That's a really good word he used for it. And it kind of bolstered me on, and it just went from there. And it's the more that I'm in this and the more that I see and the more people that I talk to, I realize that it's just important to get the real reality of this all out so that people can make up their minds and see for themselves.
The one thing that I love about you guys, Preston, is you don't play in the UFO drama. You don't play in the paranormal drama. You have dedicated yourself to bringing out people's encounters and stories. And then what you do is you go find the facts behind those stories and using those eyewitness testimony as evidence to kind of build the case of something going on. With all the drama that's going on, Preston, around the world, you've been doing this for 40 years. How do you stay out of it? How do you keep your name clean? How do you stay away from, things and arguments that are happening on UFO Twitter or between the UFO experiencer crowd and the military industrial complex side of this argument?
Well, it's not always easy. I've gotten in a few, well, I won't call them arguments, but trying to talk to people who are coming at me hard. I mean, I've been called every name in the book. You would not believe some of the things that people have put forth at me. I learned a long time ago, let people do what they want. I prefer just sticking to the facts, and I love doing research. When someone comes to me with a story and they start listing all these things, I start diving deep and vetting all these facts. I'm like, look, I found this out there telling the truth. I will go, you can take Google now to any location on Earth and start verifying. This one lady described how she saw this praying mantis type ET, and she described the location. So I went there on Google, and she was telling everything exactly true. So I love doing that. To me, that's the real excitement, not arguing with people. I think Dolly's right. There is no real consensus. And I would love to push towards that. If we could just get people in this field to agree on at least a few things. Because people are saying, oh, they're not even ETs, they're demonic. No, it's an intelligence that wears different masks. And I'd like to talk to them and say, you know what? Why are they hovering over dams and pulling water out? Why are they going over mines? Why are they hovering over nuclear power stations? Does this sound demonic to you? And why are they pulling people on and healing them? We should be able to come to at least some consensus of what we're dealing with and why they're here, just by basic facts.
But I mean, if it doesn't come from the president of the United States, Preston, it doesn't exist.
Oh, don't get me started. We don't need them. I think they're less useful than useful. They're not contributing anything to this subject. It's time we stopped even looking to them for answers at all. NASA, Aero, Pentagon, the folks in Congress, I don't mean to be rude, but they're not doing their research.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. I want to make a point. Being a military brat and having been in the military and worked for the federal government, I know three things. One of them is they leave no stone unturned for information. They know way more than they let on, and they are not.
I guess you're right. I mean, they know. Yeah. It's a deliberate misinformation.
They've have the ability and have had the ability since, a couple of decades ago, more than that, 50s, 60s, 70s, they knew exactly what they were dealing with by then in detail. You don't see the satellites above us in mass and all this space exploration that they've been doing, and please don't believe for a second that, oh, they don't know anything and they've got this company that's going to start investigating it. Wrong. They know. And they're not telling you the truth. And they use smoke and mirrors or plausible deniability to make you think otherwise. When you've got those kind of odds or people talking to you, it's good to just go certify your own information. We're all detectives enough to know the truth. We're smart enough to glean the truth. We don't need the government to tell us what is what and why is why. Simple detective work on anybody's part: who, what, where, when, and why, and dig into it. Use your own experiences. ET doesn't go out and show everybody on this planet themselves for no good reason. They know the government's not going to tell you the truth. They're out showing themselves to everybody and working with as many people as they can. That's where the real disclosure is, and we already have it. Period.
And you know what? I would technically agree with you on that, because I think real disclosure is personal. I really do believe that when they show themselves to you, they're showing themselves to you for a reason. It's not to all of a sudden say, "Hail Satan." It's not all of a sudden a reason to start saying, that this is the second coming of a new God, and our God that we believe in isn't real. It has nothing to do with that. But I think it is a personal message to you saying, hey, we are here. And every day we're opening up more and more people, and you don't need a political figure to stand up and tell you what we know. And we're going to teach you what we know. And I do believe that to an extent, but it's the secrets and the lies and the cover-ups that have been caused over the decades, let's just go back to Roswell, where that's where we seem to have the issue. Is I think people have brought disclosure to the equal of accountability.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree about that.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that there are still people who are skeptical, because I get that all the time. Where's the evidence? I'm like, for Pete's sake, how much evidence do you need? How many cases does it take? If you really want to see a UFO, you got to go out there and look for yourself, and you can. Certainly in the past, there's been plenty of opportunities. So I don't understand at all when people tell me there's no evidence. I will go off on them. This is when I do get myself in trouble, because people need to realize that there are landing trace cases, thousands of them, medical evidence, healings. There's 300 documented cases of healings. It's a lot. I mean, the evidence is there.
Well, the funny part about it is I find the majority of people who say, where's the evidence, where's the proof, they've never looked into this at all. They couldn't tell you what happened at the Ariel school. They couldn't tell you even about Travis Walton. They couldn't tell you about anything except Whitley Strieber's anal probes, but they don't know the cases. They don't know the evidence. And that is my perception of it. How about yours, Dolly?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. A lot of people have very strict belief systems, and they've blinded them to the truth. And the media doesn't help at all, because they don't tell the truth either. And they've lived eyes with blinders on. And now that it's coming out somewhat and they're hearing it, and now they're starting to look, they don't know what to look for, and they're not educated enough to even assimilate any of the signs that's included with this. And that's disturbing me greatly. We have our governments to thank for that as well. And it's crazy. I try to give people like that time. It's like, if you come at me and you say, this is no evidence, then I try to bring forth my evidence and show it to them. I give them the benefit of the doubt, right? And a lot of people go, oh my God. And then they start looking, and I encourage that. If you really want to know it's true, don't just watch podcasts. Look up newspaper reports. Google's great for that. You can Google, like every UFO report ever put on a newspaper or on film, and it'll blow up on you, and you can just look for it yourself. People are smart enough to see the truth when it's hitting them. I know there's a lot of CGI out there and AI now, but there's still good, hard film evidence out there that you can find. But it's really up to the individual to seek it out for themselves and convince themselves one way or the other. Is it real or not? Research it till you understand it, and then know which way to go with it.
Skepticism shouldn't exist. The only reason anyone's skeptical out there is because the brutal worldwide government cover-up that's so well funded, so carefully orchestrated.
Yeah.
It's actually should not be that way, because the evidence is overwhelming. And this is what keeps so many people from not even talking. My own family didn't talk to me. They were having encounters. My friends, my coworkers. That's how effective this cover-up has been. And it still hasn't worked. Because we're talking now. This subject is going into the mainstream, but we're still suffering the ravages of it. The time for skepticism is long over. We know something is going on. There's no doubt about it.
What isn't over is the cover-up, because I believe that there are many in government, in those private conversations in the Pentagon, are worried about the amount of lawsuits that would happen with any type of true disclosure. So I'm not going to go down that road tonight with you guys, because we've talked about that a lot, but I do want to know this. Out of any secret that you would like to know out of the government, whether it's Roswell, whether it's crash retrievals, alien contact, what would be yours, Preston? Because I could tell you mine. I want to know one thing. I want to know if Eisenhower really met with aliens and traded humans for technology. That's what I want to know.
I would love to know what happened during that meeting, because From my understanding, it was photographed. Yeah, that's definitely on the top of my list for sure. I also want to know what's going on with the moon. What did we find up there? I think we did find some stuff. There's little doubt in my mind after talking to a first-hand witness who talked with the astronauts. He was a petty photographer, bumped up to top secret clearance, and said that the astronauts were just losing their minds over what they had seen up there and were sworn to secrecy, basically full-on threatened. So yeah, the moon for sure. Roswell, of course. I want to see that crap. That's one of the first books I read, the Roswell incident. It really captured my imagination. There's no doubt it's real. I love that case. It's not a dead horse. It's the case that keeps on giving because we know everything about it, from who saw that thing coming down, people saw it on radar, who guarded it, who first saw the wreckage, who transported the wreckage. They've tracked that case from beginning to end. We know it's real. Show us. I want to see that so bad.
Oh, me too. Me too. And you know, just the whole point of the fact, did he meet with one extraterrestrial species? Was it two extraterrestrial species? One saying no nukes, the other one saying keep your nukes, give us people. You know, I mean, there is a lot going in with that. And I was actually talking with one insider recent as a couple months ago about this. And I asked him point blank, was the Eisenhower thing real? And he goes, I can't talk about it, but what do you believe? You know, because they always followed up with what do you believe? And I said, well, I think there's merit to it. There's too much testimony on everything. And he goes, follow that path.
Yeah, I don't think we traded technology. I just cannot see ETs giving technology to such a corrupt, abusive government. And I tried to track the reporting down on that. I think it was John Lear was one of the first to really put that forth. I talked to him about it, and he was very kind of tight-lipped about where he got this information. But I have not found good reporting on, us trading or, allowing abductions. And I hate that word. I know Dolly's going to kill me because I just said it. Onboard experience. No, I don't think that part of it is at all true. But I am thoroughly convinced UFOs did land at Edwards Air Force Base, met with Eisenhower. There was a lot of people there that we know were there. Heads of state, heads of business, heads of rocket technology, all kinds of people were there. So we know this.
You need a book on this. You need a book. Dolly, 90 seconds. Which one would you like to see come out?
Well, that one, and I'll tell you why, because I know what happened that day. They signaled that they were coming. Eisenhower had an unbelievable safety contingent with him. He had personal guards with him. Everybody was armed. They knew it was coming. And he was walked on board and went for a ride. And basically what went on is ET asked them point blank, you going to get rid of the nukes or not? And that was their number one agenda with us. Wanted to know why we were so dead set on killing ourselves. And that's exactly how they put it to him. He asked that, he kind of said, well, if we got rid of our nukes, they'd have to get rid of theirs. There would have to be a huge thing about it. ETs were like, we'll help you facilitate this. They never said that they would give them information. They already had information on ET. They already had crash retrievals. They weren't busy bitching about that. They wanted the nukes. They wanted us to stop nuking one another. That's what that meeting was about, period. You understand that they know more than we do about this stuff, and they knew more at that time than we did at that point. And that's exactly what, and Eisenhower could not promise them anything, and that was the end of it. And any other information that you're all taught or spoken about is zero. Did not happen. No détente, no giving back and forth, nothing. ET wanted the news.
Did they ask, though, to urge people to disclose?
Yeah, well, that's
Hold that thought. Yeah. Hold that thought. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Eisenhower and aliens, aliens and UFOs, UFOs and cryptids, all coming up next in the next half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned, everybody.
is he drawn? I'm looking at it. Oh my God.
We have a blob alert, everybody. Blob alert as we speak. And Dirty Filth. What are we drawing tonight? Usually takes Filth about 4.5 minutes to turn his mic on.
Gotta make sure to turn off all the stuff that helps with the swearing protocols. Look at that blob.
There's Blob. There's Blob.
Hello, look at that baby. I love Caliban. She's gorgeous.
Yeah, she's 9,000 years old.
Oh, and she loves you.
Oh,
Preston's cat. Our cat does that to Preston. He can't work without her in his lap. He folds a blanket up so she doesn't murder his legs. Oh, look at you. Oh, pretty girl.
Showing off.
Oh, Blob.
Showing off right there, Blobbert.
Everybody loves you, Blob.
Oh.
How can you not love Blob? Blob is Blob even has her own T-shirts and posters on our website.
Oh, I love
You
that.
can get a Science Blob shirt.
I might just do that. That's cute.
Yeah, she's
She's
about 9,000
fresh.
years old. And usually she loves her mom, but whenever I draw a cartoon, she always comes and piles on me.
Sure.
That's
Your
because
energy is what's attracting her. Yeah. Cats love creative people. You know, the more creative, see, she's agreeing with me. The more creative you are, the more the cat will love you. Yeah.
I can't.
Oh, Mrs. Filth is over there doing sorry, she's over there doing like a 20-point cross stitch. It's going to take her like 10,000 years to do it.
Uh-huh.
But she's pretty artistic herself. She's probably going to yell at me for saying that. But
Wow.
behold
How
the
old is
blob. I think, hold on. Lover, how old is Blob?
That sounds about
14,
right.
15, sounds like a question mark at the end.
It's adorable. Yeah.
Oh,
we can hear her purring.
Yes.
that's actually me, Dave.
Is it? Well, with the amount of chest hair you have, it doesn't surprise me.
Got it folds right into my arm hair.
Mm-hmm. Can't tell the difference between your arm and Blob.
Yeah, pretty much. I got to snake the sinks once a week and all the drains in the house.
Oh.
So, anyways, I'm drawing the UFO, the jellyfish UFO, because
Oh my goodness.
he's very confident at what he is, because everyone said that the jellyfish UFO was just a bird poop smear, but he's confident that he's actually a UFO. So now I've developed him into a character. So
Beautiful.
Anyways, I'm rambling away here, Dave. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, people want to see Blob. They want to hear you. They love you.
I think they just want to see Blob. I gotta get a separate camera, just like a Blob camera.
You totally. You know what? We should literally get a Blob cam and run her camera on StreamYard during the show.
Yeah.
Then she could just lay in her little cat spot, and I'd be able to feel my legs during the show again.
Yeah.
Blob's
No, I
got her own
I
YouTube
like
channel.
Blob being here. She's the art director.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we love her. We love her around here.
Paw of approval right there, apparently.
Yeah, right. That's amazing. Yeah.
The stamp of approval right there.
I think it's snack time for the Blob.
She needs a treat.
Yeah.
I need to feel my legs again.
Sasquatch guy says Blob cam for the win.
There you go. Definitely.
All right, we got about 1 minute to go here. And in the meantime, Filth is going to go stretch his legs so he can actually feel them again. And wow, Eisenhower. I love that. Preston, you got to do a book on this. You
I
have to.
considered it because I did a chapter on it in UFOs over California, and I just kept getting more information. I mean, there's everyone who looks into this, any of the serious researchers who look into it, have come away convinced.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just
Look at
more
the
and more
date. Look at the
information.
date that it happened, and then start seeing how many times they were flying over nuclear facilities. How soon that it started occurring, and when.
Yep.
You play connect the dots. You will.
You got that right. We got about 20 seconds here. Big thank you tonight to W. Decker, Melvin, and Aussie Ange for the super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. And don't forget, you can get your Science Blob stuff and all sorts of gear at spacedoutradio.com. On our store, we do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear ours in public and be proud of it. Here we go. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to any major podcast network or on YouTube at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here comes Preston Dennett and Dolly Safran, UFOs and Cryptids. And right before the break, we were talking about this weird story of the Greada Treaty, which is, did President Eisenhower meet with UFOs and aliens at Edwards Air Force Base in 1954, I believe. Preston, you believe it's happened. Dolly, you believe it's happened. Why do you think this is still such a secret and still a highly contested conspiracy theory?
Literally because there's so many stories out there that nobody knows which one to believe. And Preston hates that word because nobody has true knowledge of it. And it's driving everybody nuts. And the stories seem to become more fantastical every year that goes by. I mean, I hear a new one about it all the time. It's got to stop. That's why they need to disclose that for real. If you want to convince somebody that something's happening, that's where you start with that moment forward.
Yeah, pretty much everyone who was there is now gone. I mean, there's no one alive who was a part of that, as far as I know. So there's no reason for this not to be told truthfully, transparently. But I don't think it's ever going to happen. I really don't. I don't trust our governments. They've never, ever told the truth about this subject. They're not now, so I don't see why they will in the future. I don't trust him. I hate to be cynical, but because I'm not, actually. I'm really optimistic. Dolly will tell you I'm an idealist.
Yes. Yeah.
I always look at the good side of people, and I give them a chance, 2, 3. I'm done giving chances with these folks. I don't think they're going to tell the truth.
I would like to bring up
the easy threat right there is to their power structure, to their control of the narrative. That's why it's still covered up, I think. They want control.
I want you all to imagine something, and you don't have to go very far for this one because it's already happened. Fukushima happened because of a natural disaster. That is one station, and look what it did when everything went wrong. How many of those facilities are all over this planet? How many? How many nukes do we have, they have, and everybody else has in areas that are prone and devastatable by things like hurricanes, flooding, tsunamis, earthquakes, things like that? That's the one thing that ET did warn them about, and Eisenhower specifically, that we were looking forward in the future to coming events now that will cause disasters that are so bad that we're going to kill ourselves with them. It might happen before we even plant one on each other. It's serious. And they came up, that's about the time that I heard as a child, young kid, from my father, that they got a new reason for having nukes. And I was like, why? And he said, because it's a deterrent. We won't launch on each other because we all have it. That is no excuse, none, not even none, because we do have natural disasters on this planet. We do have cataclysmic events and planting nukes all over the place or nuclear facilities all over the place is an insane thing to do. We ruin our environment. We devastate people. It's tragic. And they were trying to warn them about that.
You don't even know about a lot of the really bad disasters. The Hanford plant had a lot of problems. The Santa Susana Pass had a huge nuclear leak that almost nobody knows about.
Right.
There's still areas there you can't go to. There's been all kinds of lawsuits. People don't know about it.
Right.
Well, very true. Very true. And I'm wondering, as we move towards UFOs and what we are seeing and what we're doing, I mean, you guys have taken a little bit of a turn recently by trying to look into the research of the combination of UFOs and cryptids.
Yeah.
Now, there have been plenty of stories over the years of Sasquatch sightings and UFOs coming by at the same time. I know my Sasquatch area, before the Sasquatch showed up a few weeks later, guess what? There was a triangle in the sky, triangle of lights that appeared out of nowhere and disappeared just as fast. So, why did you guys decide to combine the two? Preston?
Well, they're related. I think it's clear that there are enough cases where particularly UFOs and Sasquatch or Bigfoot, or call them what you want, are occurring in the same area at the same time that we have to pay attention to it. Throwing away evidence is not going to solve any mysteries, answer any questions. And if you really dig deep, you can find 50 or 100 or more cases where Bigfoot is seen at the same time a UFO is. Going into a UFO, there are cases of that coming right out inside a craft, graze next to Sasquatch. I mean, it's a long list. Now, if you look at all the Bigfoot encounters, and there's a lot more out there than most people realize, it's like the UFO situation. It's vastly underestimated. Most don't have this overt UFO connection. And the same is true for UFOs. If you see a UFO landing, it's probably not going to have a Bigfoot jump out of it. But there are these cases, and to ignore them, I think, is a mistake. And I think that they hold some really interesting insights into what's going on, because I couldn't figure it out. I think the main speculation is Bigfoot is extraterrestrial. And I was never quite comfortable with that, because looking into the Bigfoot stuff, it goes back a long time. Bigfoot has been on this planet forever, since we basically started recording accounts of it, and before. Look at the Native Americans, indigenous people, really of all cultures, have a long oral tradition of this. So we know they are part of this planet. They've lived here as long as we have. So why would they be extraterrestrials? I have a new theory, actually, which sounds crazy, but I think it explains this connection perfectly. I think that Sasquatch, some of them are contactees, just like your average person. They are telepathic. If you look into the Bigfoot cases, lots of cases of them being telepathic, lots of cases of them having some psychic ability, even to the point of disappearing or doing weird stuff. So I think what's going on here is ET are contacting them as they would any other person, because I think they're sentient, at least some of them. Clearly, there's a lot of different types. But these cases, I think, have some really interesting insights and can answer some of the questions, not only about Sasquatch, but about ETs and ourselves.
I think there is something that does combine the two. I think it's only natural. I've heard stories of people who have taken reports of people out camping, sitting around their fire, and all of a sudden they hear these weird, strange noises and heavy footprints around them, and they're not in a or footsteps, and they're not in an area where there's bears or moose that are going to make a lot of noise. And then all of a sudden the lights from the UFO come over and they hear these things start screaming and scattering, like they're absolutely freaked out. I mean, I don't know where that situation is. I am just relaying the story. But I mean, it's a scary thing if something that big, that strong, that apex is scared by a UFO, Dolly.
Nah, I don't think they are. Um, think about it this way: we have exploded in population into areas that are normally heavily forested, inaccessible to us, and just plowed right into them. We have states that are totally covered in people now. These are sentient beings that are capable of all kinds of things, and I do think they've been here. We know that in our history we've had all kinds of hominids that didn't make it, and they extinguish themselves. We come from a couple of different. We come from the Synovians and from Neanderthals. Okay, we have both of their blood in our blood. These are a line of sentient beings that are intelligent enough not to be caught, not to be seen, sowing their own life out in the forests. ET knows what everything that goes on this planet. They know every animal on this planet. They work with all of them. They take them, they bring them back. They've brought animals here from other planets long before we got here. I didn't think about this much until I had my own experience, and then I became extremely interested until Talata finally, gave me some clues about things. I lived on Pine Mountain in Georgia. I had a big log cabin, and I lived right in Roosevelt State Park. I had 5 acres and then 25,000 acres all around me all at once. We were fine, and we used to have bonfires out in the yard, And one night it was getting cold, and I'm telepathic, so if you're going to think toward me, I'll pick it up. And I got this message, literally, we're cold and we love your fire, and will you leave it for us? We'll help bank it back in the morning. Go in the house, close the shades, we're fine. And I literally said, who are you? And he said, we're the people that live here. And I thought, okay. And I thought about it, and I said, okay. And I'm a Southerner. You don't leave something for somebody without leaving them food too. So we ran around thinking, what can we leave these guys? We left fruit, we left nuts, we left, water, things like that. And I didn't bank the fire, didn't knock it down or anything. We left extra wood to throw on it, and we all went into bed. It was about 1:00 in the morning. My fire pit was totally banked back. Everything was cleaned up. All the food was gone. And I got a message, thank you, you're good. And I was like, wow. This further spurred me on with my daughter. We built a, little, I guess you would, it's a little house in the back of our property near the valley where a big hill goes down into the valley. And we're overlooking it back there. So we built a little hut, and we used to leave stuff for them all the time. And it would always disappear, and it would always be just the way we left, we left it. And this went on for about 6 months. Right about this time, we had one of the worst tornadoes in that area ever. From Pine Mountain all the way to Manchester, Georgia, a mile-wide tornado took most of us out on that mountain. It ate Warm Springs, it ate Manchester, it ate Pine Mountain, it ate Hamilton. I mean, it was bad. They lost 40 head of cattle, and 2 people disappeared in this tornado, and it ate us. The devastation was incredible. And about 5 days later, I was in the back surveying the finger of God that went behind our property. And I walked back in the house. I was almost crying. You can't even imagine. It was horrible. And I heard this screaming sound that made my blood curdle. It was that being moaning and wailing. And the next thing I know, that next night, we saw craft come from. It came down into the valley, and they took them. They were gone. And I point blank, I attacked Clara about it. I said, what did you do? What is this, an intervention? What's going on? And he said, there's a lot going on here. We love them just like we love you. They're part of this planet, and we well take care of them. And we move them when I need to, and they've got nothing left. We have to get them out of here. And I was like, oh my God. And that's what spurred me on. I was like, well, you're not going to tell me everything. And he said, no, this is something for you to figure out on your own. So I've been digging. I was at the first UFO con, the mega con we went to. Guess who was in the table right behind us? And I freaked out. I was like, oh my God. And one of them was the guy that was investigating the exact tornado that took everything out. And the Sasquatch that were living back there, the Bigfoot. And I've just been following around. Then Preston starts telling me his story, and it just went from there. If you have a story, I want to know about it. I lived in Dade City, Florida, at the zoo, our family zoo. And I used to go to CE5s out there. And one of the guys said he had one in his freezer. Okay. And I said, why would you have it in your freezer? And he said, well, don't ask me that. And I'm thinking, oh no, I need to leave here now. This is freaking me out. He said, I'm going to show it to you. Well, it had been frozen in this thing for a while. And when you're a nurse, you know about decay and decomposition. And so he opened it up, and I saw the hair, and I saw one of the hands, curled up, and he wouldn't open the bag more than that to show me. And I said, why haven't you had DNA done on it? He said they would come and take it immediately. The government would have it. And I said, well, can't you trust anybody? Call the Smithsonian, call somebody. And he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I had to leave it alone after that because he just totally went dead silent on me about it. But I saw this thing and I thought, oh my God, what if this is real? I've heard stories all over Florida about the Sasquatch that are out there and where they're at and everything, and Georgia, and it's just amazing. And now we're living in North Georgia, way up near Tennessee in the mountains, and we got a big old museum up here that I love. And I'm growing tobacco, okay? This summer I'm growing tobacco because somebody said grow tobacco. If one wants to come up and sit on my property, I'll leave it food, anything it wants, because I just want to prove more to myself and more to everybody else that these guys are real. I wish we could get a picture of one. It's hard to get ET on film. Think about that,
Well, don't call Smithsonian, whatever you do. Because if you look into this subject, I'm telling you, this has got another commonality with the whole UFO subject, is how it's being treated by our governments and officialdom. And you can track this down because there are cases of UFO bodies being discovered, or Bigfoot bodies and Sasquatch and so forth being captured, and they are covered up very quickly. Mainstream anthropology won't touch the subject when it's clearly real. Jeff Meldrum found out the hard way that you get treated pretty badly if you pay this subject any serious attention. And he's an anthropologist. So it's a mess, and it's the same darn situation with the UFO subject. They know, and they're not going to tell you. And all these Bigfoot bodies you can trace them right to the Smithsonian. That's where you never hear about it again. They would be the last people I'd call if I had a body.
I don't think I would call anybody, to be blunt. It just seems like everybody has some sort of nefarious position. I mean, look what's happening in the UFO world with all of these so-called government background UFO reporting sites like Enigma Labs and other ones out there that, hey, we want all of your information. We want to know your hair color, your height, your weight, your social security number, what color is your sink in your bedroom. We want to know all of this, but we're not going to tell you who's investigating you. We're not going to tell you what we're going to do with your report. We're not going to tell you who's going to get that information. There's a lot of we're not going to tell yous going on these days, whether it's cryptids or whether it's anything. I mean, it's like, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you've ever looked into the BFRO, the Bigfoot Research Organization, did you know that they skew their stats?
No, I didn't know.
What possible reason they do that for?
Well, if you
infiltration or
no, because they want to be so scientific that if you have a situation with a UFO and it has, say, comes with a Bigfoot sighting, or the Bigfoot sighting comes with something paranormal, or the Bigfoot disappears right in front of you, they will either A, edit the report, or B, refuse to use it in their database because they don't believe in the woo. They believe that everything needs to be scientific.
The UFO subject had the same problem.
Yeah.
In the beginning with UFOs, they wouldn't touch cases with humanoids. Wouldn't touch them. They were considered not credible. Now, of course, it's the cutting edge. And crash retrievals, of course, same thing. So it's interesting to hear that this is exactly what's happening with Bigfoot. Wow.
Oh yeah. It's actually an ugly situation. I know one person who has personally had his cases edited.
Oh, I'm curious.
Yeah. If you ever want to talk to Carter Bouchard about it, it would be a great conversation that you guys have, because he has stood up against the BFRO, and more and more people are standing up. The only reason why they continue to stay members is because they want access to the database.
Wow. Preston, write the name down. You give us a contact after the show?
Oh, I can give you the contact. I don't mind that. Carter's
okay, thank you.
Great
All
guy.
right.
We got 3 minutes. We got 3 minutes to go before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Dolly Safran and Preston Dennett are here. Cryptids and UFOs. What attracts you, Preston, to this subject? Why has it become your next level of research?
Because it's still lots of room for research here. People think of Bigfoot and they think, well, there's this, 8, 9, 10 foot, 12 foot Sasquatch thing. It's not near that simple. There's tiny little Yowies in Australia. There's the Almas in China. There's wild men that I think there's probably Cro-Magnon running around for real, not just a hairy primate, a huge variety of intelligent, sentient, primates of all different types. It's not just one. Even in the United States, there's huge variation. I was shocked to see.
We'll call them hominids, not primates. Yeah.
The descriptions of some of these guys are so close to a human. I mean, they've got a human-looking face. Their bodies aren't necessarily covered with hair. So there's a lot more to this. And I'm also really intrigued by the idea that these Bigfoot, some of these guys, hominids, thanks Dolly, are more psychically advanced than we are, and have figured some things out that we're just beginning to realize. That's cool. I mean, if they can disappear, because this is something yogis can do, and people who have become spiritually enlightened to some degree. You hear reports of this throughout the decades and the millennia with, saints and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot to learn from this whole subject that we have only begun to scratch the surface of.
When you're getting into the scratching of the surface, what kind of case do you look for that really sets you off, Preston?
Any case, I think, I've said this many times, every single case has something to offer. It's another piece of the puzzle. Even if it's your standard cut and dry, not a whole lot of information, it's another weight of evidence pointing towards this is real. And you can map out these sightings and you can see that they actually fit areas where there's food and water and a wide food source. But I love those cases with multiple witnesses. I love that.
You've got a case, Wendy, okay? And she's in Australia now. And she had Sasquatch contact. Her sons did too. And they would come up to her house, right?
Yeah, there was 3 witnesses to that one, plus the neighbors, plus they broke a tree. I went and saw the tree. This was a branch this big that was snapped right off. And the kid's like, it was the monkey man. It was a monkey. He was 5 years old, yes. But Wendy and her roommate were full-grown adults, and both, it walked around the house looking in each window. Wendy is a contactee, and she, like Dolly, has developed her telepathic abilities. And she's like, it's talking to me. It's talking to me. It says its name is Manitoba.
Nice.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm going to get you guys to hold on there because we are going to continue right after this on Spaced Out Radio. Cryptids and UFOs. Is there a tie between the two? Preston Dennett, Dolly Safran are here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll continue it right after this. Stay tuned. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are there. We got about 5 minutes here. I'm going to turn it over to Dirty Filth here to kind of give us a rundown, and I believe Blobbert is still around. Or did you get rid of Blob there? We saw her head there, Dirty.
He's got to turn his mic on again.
Yeah, well, it takes about 4.5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'm done struggling here.
Blobbert still there too? Did she come back?
Yes. There's
Oh, look at her.
I have a calico that I left with my daughter when I left Florida because
Right
she just couldn't be taken away from the other cats. She loved them so much. And she looks a lot like your cat. I call her Ella of Frel. And she's just a hoot.
Well, this is Blob of Blobbington Downs.
Blob of Blobbington Town.
Blobby
Yeah.
McBlobberton, or Blobs
Okay.
McBlob, or
Aw.
also the Big Bad Blob.
Uh-huh.
Also Little Blob, Little Blobbington.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes I'll go, Blob, how can you simultaneously be Big Bad Blob, but also Little Blobby at the same time?
Yeah.
It's out of
Yeah.
control.
Ella would have been this big, but my daughter's a vet tech, so she minds the fact that she needs to keep her weight down. Otherwise, she knows she would have gone that way. But they're round. These are little round type of calicos with the little short, long, fat tail. And it's just amazing to me.
I can
There's-
turn the
it's a
brightness
whole
down a bit, so like blinding everybody. Well, Blob was half frozen to death in a snowbank when
Oh, wow.
Mrs. Filth found her. That's why she's got the little tiny rounded off ears and the short little blob tail.
Aw. Yep, Ella's the same way. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Blob
What's
is older than
amazing
Ella.
is
Yeah.
when you go out of body and try to pet a cat, try to do that. It's different. They can see you when you're out of body.
Right. They know you're coming.
They have this electric field surrounding it. Dolly had this one cat. I couldn't touch it. It had this force field around it. I don't know if that cat was even a cat, honestly.
I don't think I've ever experienced that, but not when you mention that, in my dreams, I kind of live in the same house that I live in where I am now. And except the weird thing is the back door is actually when you go down to the basement of my place. That's where the back door is. It's really strange. Anyways, nonetheless, that's another story. But I've always tried to talk to the cats, but they've always seemed to ignore me. I'm gonna have to pester them a little bit harder the next time I go there.
Yeah. I had a service dog
Thanks for
named.
the heads up on that one.
Yeah, you should check it out. Seriously, try to touch it and see what happens. Yeah. I had a service dog for a long time. Her name was Tippy, and she passed away. And it just devastated me. Oh my God, it was hard on me. I didn't have a dog for a long time. As a matter of fact, the dog we have now is my first dog since then. And I had a moment a few years ago, I guess 5 years ago or so, where I was almost near to death. And I saw her sit next to me, looking up at me like, it's okay, it's okay. And it dawned on me, oh my God, she's still with me. So now when I OBE, I look for her and I call her. And a lot of times she's still around me. She's hanging out. It's amazing. I got a feeling that Blobberton here is going to do that to you someday. She will never leave you. Stuff
You know
will
what?
happen.
I don't want to think about that because I'm a big suckhole for Blob. So I'll be crying like a wuss. At that
Well,
point in
I will
time,
tell you
for
that
sure.
I've had cats to live 22 years, and she will too. If she's 14, she's going to make it. She'll go a long time. Yes.
Yeah,
Looks
well,
like
maybe
a
I'll get
little
abducted
kitty
by
to me.
aliens and not come back. So then I won't feel bad about it. But yeah, I know Blob. And then we got 3 other ones. We got the whiskey and the gargoyle and the gremlin. Just 3 terrors. Oddly enough, the plants have survived.
Yeah, the only thing I couldn't keep around my cats and still can't is avocados. I start the seeds and get them to grow, and they would eat them like they were candy. Drove me crazy.
And couches.
My
Yes.
boys are bread thieves. Can't put a bread box in the counter because they knock it over and steal the bread out of it. So I have to put the bread in the fridge from now on. So I have to have cold bread all the time.
Oh my God.
That's all right, though.
It's good to be a cat.
Look at that calico action right there.
I know.
There you go, Paul.
Oh, there she goes.
He's gonna go sit on top of the printer here.
Oh, there goes
Maybe.
Bob.
Yep.
Good, she
Oh,
left
yeah.
some hair on your pants there, dirty filth.
It's just filthy as hells. Anyway, there's the bobtail. Good thing I was wearing pants. Holy crap, Dave.
I know.
Oh, boy. You'd have your first Spaced Out Radio OnlyFans going on there.
Yeah.
Hey, if it brings in money, why not?
Oh,
You could draw in the flesh. Hey, Guy, how you doing? Ukrainian Anita, welcome back. And Evan Walters, still pissing me off, but that's okay. Mike Rivers, how you doing? And who else has joined us here? Christine Lynn. And I think we're caught up on everybody there. Big thank you tonight to Sasquatch Guy, Ozzy Ange, Melvin, and W. Decker for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support, everybody, as we get ready to go into hour number 2. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you get yours today. Here we go, everyone. Here we go with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And what do you got for us tonight, Clam? Secundo Genitor. Secundo Genitor is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We continue on with Preston Dennett and Dolly Safran, UFOs and cryptids. Is there a connection between the two? Preston and Dolly, welcome back to the show. And Preston, I want to start with you on this one because you always have some amazing stories that you're able to dig up. What's one that you've heard that really caught your attention between seeing cryptids and UFOs?
Oh, gosh. There's so many. I think one that really caught my attention, well, I mean, the first one, I may have told this before, but it's the one that really introduced me to the idea, was this guy, Robert Murphy, that I interviewed, a radiologist who lived in Canyon Country. Now, this is right outside of LA. And he said he had a Bigfoot encounter. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know, because this is LA. But I did my research. Turns out this is where the Los Angeles National Forest is. It's got like, gosh, I think it's 50 million acres, something like that. I mean, it's a lot. And he had described how he was in his backyard and this UFO landed. And it was blue and white lights. And he's looking at this thing. There's nothing out there. So he ran to get his glasses. He's nearsighted and ran back, and this thing was taken off. He said the very next night, Bigfoot showed up in the exact area. So he felt there was absolutely a connection because it was the next night. And he had a telepathic rapport with it. And this, you were asking what kind of case do I like? I like the ones with the psychic something paranormal aspect to it because I think there's more to unpack there. And he said he knew that this Bigfoot was mad at his dogs. He had 4 dogs. Were out on the porch going crazy. Bigfoot and dogs, as you may know, don't really get along that well. So he heard this thing roar several times. And the way he described it, because I would later hear a Bigfoot roar myself. And he described how it kind of resonated in his chest. And that was a detail that I've heard many times from people and certainly read about. So that was interesting. But to me, the most interesting aspect was it went beyond that, because he said he found footprints, by the way. It was hard packed soil, so they weren't really defined. But he said he had a poltergeist outbreak following this. And doors were opening and closing. I mean, it was a full-on, but brief haunting that he felt was absolutely related to this. So that to me was one of my favorite cases. And I don't get as many as I would like, because I'm much more known for just UFOs, but they're starting to trickle in. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting, because I did talk to one guy, and I didn't get to do a formal interview with him, but he was up in the Trinity Mountains of the Sierras in Northern California. If you know anything about Bigfoot, it's huge there. And he was at a creek when a male Bigfoot appeared. He says it came out of thin air. This is another one of those, almost all the Bigfoot stories I've gotten have some paranormal aspect to it, even if it's just a kind of a telepathic rapport. But he had this one appear out of thin air and started speaking to him telepathically. He's like, oh my God, you're real. He's like, yes, we're real. And his, I won't say wife, but partner, his female Bigfoot appeared, and then the child. And he said he had this long conversation, and basically he started to realize I was super interested in this and wanted to do a formal interview, and he started to clam up. People sometimes get scared when they realize that you want to interview them. And I saw that with him. So I kind of backed off a little bit, and then I lost track of him. That was one of my favorite cases. I really wish I could have followed that one up.
Why do you think people are so frightened to go on the record with everything, even if you use an alias?
I don't know entirely. I think part of it is it makes it real. I think they're really afraid of the ridicule factor, honestly. I've had people who said, okay, I'll tell you, but I want to be anonymous. I'm like, that's fine. Can I record it? No. And I can't, I'm a kind of researcher that I need to be accurate. So I really want to record. Now, if they are dead set against it, I'll just take notes as best as I can. But that's scared off people before. It's ultimately, I think, they have difficulties sharing the more woo-woo, high strangeness aspects of it as well. And I think sometimes it just gets so wild, they don't think that even I will believe them. So there's, I think, multiple factors going on, because I start asking hard questions because I want to know what you do for a living. Were you taking drugs? I mean, I have to ask some hard questions. Do you have anyone that can support your story? Can I talk to people in your family, who can refer you as an honest person? And this, people don't like to have every aspect of their life picked over with a fine-tooth comb. And ultimately, if you're a good investigator, you have to ask the hard questions. So I think that's another aspect to it, that kind of people just don't want to go there. I think ultimately it's the ridicule. They just don't want to be laughed at. They don't want to be disbelieved. They're certainly not out to convince people. They don't care. They don't want publicity.
But let's look at Dolly's opinion on this, because as an experiencer, Dolly, as someone who has gone through this, you've heard the ridicule, you've heard the people, talking, oh, there's that crazy Dolly lady who has a, you've heard it all. I mean, when you hear Preston talking like this, where people don't want to come forward, they don't want to have their voice taped, they don't want to answer the tough questions, they just want to tell their story and leave. How is that a natural reaction for most people? Is that a reaction that people are just too afraid to share what happened to them?
Well, I'll give you, for instance, my family knew this family who lived out in the Everglades as well. They lived south of Chrome Avenue near the Gumbalumba Trails. And they lived on about 25 acres. They had 8 kids. They lived very simply. They're almost like hippies, okay? And we went over to visit them once. We were all kids, and he had made this giant, I mean, giant treehouse. And I was unbelievable, like, wow, why did you do this? You know, you're that poor, but you built this phantasmagorical treehouse. And he didn't say anything for a little while. And then his oldest son said to me, we think there's a skunk ape living up there with a family when we're not around looking at them. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, when we all go to bed at night, and I didn't know what a skunk ape was. That's what Floridians call Sasquatch. And I was just a kid, so it just left my head afterwards. But as an adult now, and I think back on that, I'm like, oh my God, he was a teacher in the Dade County school system. And his son told me that if they let it get out, he could lose his job. And that was the only job that family had to live off of. Okay, 8 kids. And I think that as I gotten older and I hear people talking that if you're a professional of any kind, like a fireman or a teacher or a nurse or, you know, anybody in the public eye where your job could come back at you and fire you for it and ridicule you for it, people don't talk. It's like having an NDA from the government. It could mean terrible, tragic things for you. So people keep their mouths shut. I have a feeling that that's a great pressure on a lot of people, you know?
It is a lot of pressure. I mean, people like to keep things secret, and maybe they're investigators and they know, they're like, hey, they're not bothering me. I'm not bothering them. We're living cohesively on my property. Let's just let, you know, bygones be bygones, if we could use that term with a cryptid creature, you know. And I can see where that would happen. But do you think, though, that it's out of fear of reprisal of what may happen? Maybe the police, maybe government officials, maybe black helicopters over the house. I mean, we've heard all of these stories before. Is that something that kind of draws the attention?
Yeah, it does. I'm a personal recipient of that. Yep. Somebody tried to nab me when I was about 8.5 years old, and all hell broke loose. It was military getting involved, feds getting involved, CIA getting involved. My poor brother and I ended up with personal guards for 6 months. All our friends were like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And my parents were like, "No talking. That's it. No talking." My father had a nervous breakdown, and I'm not kidding you. He tore our entire house to bits. Broke every glass object in our house about 4 months after that happened. He ended up in the military hospital. We couldn't even see him for 30 days. And when we did, he was under armed guards. Okay. I think he was trying to bring out what was going on and they wouldn't let him. And he got mad and then he went nuts over it. He was trying to protect his family. This is the kind of pressure they can bring against you. The governments can, the alt governments, black ops. And it's not funny when it happens. And all these people know this. All of them, even people who are associated with them know this. And so everybody keeps quiet.
Yeah, I've had people not talk because their spouse didn't want them to. One lady I interviewed, she finally did convince her spouse to speak. So I had the whole family talking basically. But I asked her, can you go on public access television? Because she was cooperating. She's like, let's do this. I really think people need to know this. And it was about 2 days before the show. She called me up. She says, I'm not doing it. I'm like, oh, okay, why? You know, that's fine, but I'm curious. She said, well, the ETs came and they said it's not time. And I interviewed another lady up in Maine. She's like, I'm really reluctant to talk to you because every time I talk about this to anybody, I have another encounter. I've had a few people tell me that sort of thing. So it just talking about it can bring on a whole new set of experiences. It's hard for some people to deal with. Just talking about it can set people into, you know, a lot of emotion. I've had people weeping as they describe their stories. So it takes courage just to even talk about it. And it can have repercussions that, you know, you might not expect.
Why is it so emotional, Preston?
I think because of the cover-up, honestly, the ridicule factor. This is a subject that, for whatever reason, is a core belief. It really kind of affects a person's worldview and how they see their place in the world and their relationship to everything. It's like religion. It's like politics. It's super sensitive subject. I've had people get really angry at me when I was doing ghost research. They're like, "You're going to go to hell. Don't you understand that?" I'm like, "I think I'm going to be okay." They really got upset, crying, trying to save my soul because I'm investigating these subjects. So it's very, very emotional for people. One guy who's a Marine officer, a tough guy, broke down in tears when I asked him to describe the ET he saw. And I'm like, it's really okay if you don't want to, that's fine. But he's like, no, I really need to do this. But you've got to understand that this was one of the scariest experiences I've ever had. He's been shot at. He went in the Vietnam War. So I think there's a lot of emotion that goes with it, even to the point of, good emotions. I've had people who said, this was the most loving experience I ever had. And they start breaking down just over that because they've never felt that kind of love before from another human being. And it's extremely personal. One lady told me, "I'm not telling you what happened." I'm like, "Well, why not?" She said, "This ET was giving me personal information about my life that would happen." And it happened. And she started crying. I'm like, "That's okay. You don't have to tell me, but I'd be very curious, can you skirt around it a little bit?" She ended up telling me all of it on the agreement that I would not publicize it. And sometimes they'll say, "If you turn off the recorder, I will tell you." Boy, one guy was so mad when I tried to record because he was talking about crashed UFOs and stuff like that. It's like, you cannot put this on record. So there's all kinds of reasons why I think people have a hard time with it.
I can see where people would have a hard time. We got about 7 minutes to go here before we have to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Preston Dennett, Dolly Safran are our guests tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We always talk Bigfoot. We always seem to go towards the Sasquatch side of things. Have you had any reports of any other cryptids, from little people to Dogman to Mothman and others, that have been seen around UFO sightings as well?
I have a question about this, because I have an experience that blew me away, blew me out of the water. And when I saw it, I freaked out. I wasn't afraid, but it blew my mind, and it makes me understand why people, when they see ET, have the same reaction, because this one blew me up. I'm coming home from the base. It's 2:00 in the morning. I had a very late shift. I was very tired. It was pouring rain, and I was 50-mile trip from the base to where I lived. And I was coming down the last road that turned down where I lived on the mountain. And there was one street light on this road and a big old tree there. And I'm looking at the tree in the light and admiring, because I'm a tree person. I love trees. And I see this thing sitting in the tree looking at me. And I'm thinking, it's got red eyes. It has red eyes. And the next thing I know, as I start to come under the tree, it jumped off the limb and landed on my windshield. Down the windshield. It was so wet, it couldn't keep on it. Slid down the front of my engine hood and poof, right in front of it while I slammed on the brakes. What I saw was a gargoyle, a big, probably 3 foot tall, real honest to God, black, with little wings on his back. And I know what gargoyles look like because my mother had a thing for them. And I went into dead shock. And the next thing I know, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. And I took off and I ran over it. Well, the truck was way high up, so I don't think I killed it. But you bet I was about a quarter of a mile from the house, and I made it there in 30 seconds. That's how fast I went in the rain. I ran in the house, took off my BDUs, put on shorts and a T-shirt, and got my shotgun and sat on the front porch. Everybody's like, what is she doing? I woke them up with the noise I made coming in, and I sat there for the rest of the night waiting for that thing to come get me. I was going to end it. It's a gargoyle, a real gargoyle. How many people hear about stuff like that? I never told this until I told Preston, and you're the first one to hear it beside him. A real gargoyle.
Yep. Most people keep this kind of thing quiet. They don't talk for obvious reasons. And I don't think it's, a coincidence that this is something Dolly experienced, because contactees have a psychic ability, and I think cryptids, are telepathic. A lot of these guys have this ability. They can see auras. They're drawn to people. There was a guy in England who was a full-on contactee. Like Dolly, he woke up. He was having full-on conscious experiences, being taken on board, remembering the whole thing. He woke up once being taken home and he's looking at the grays. And finally he just says, God, what did he say? It was funny. He's like, howdy, boys, or something like that. Hey, chaps. And the two grays jumped up and were in a complete panic and started running around the room. He's like, oh, don't worry, I won't hurt you. My point is, he's pretty advanced in his contact. Well, he started seeing shadow people, and he described this one experience where this giant lizard-like creature, this is not a reptilian, this is a lizard, basically, was like 4 feet tall, crawling up his wall. And, this is not a normal thing. This is not, a Gila monster that happens to have gotten into his house in England. This was something else. And he wanted to report it because he wanted to know if I'd heard of anything like it. And I hadn't. I've heard of giant spiders. I've heard of weird things. So there's something going on here that I don't fully understand. Thinking there's an interdimensional aspect that these contactees are seeing into it, or I don't know what's quite going on here. But yeah, this does turn up. I've got dogmen stories. Wendy, the lady who saw Bigfoot, swears up and down and sideways she saw a fairy. I tried to talk her out of it because she described it with wings. I mean, the whole deal. Your classic fairy. She's like, I'm telling you, I named it Felicity. It visited me over and over again as a child. She saw this thing, and she said it was intelligent and would fly around. It was like this big. I don't know what to think of that. And later, I was talking to Whitley Strieber, and he admitted he had a similar experience, saw something flying along. He's like, I don't talk about that because people think you're nuts.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, that is, and you can't blame people for saying, hey, I feel like I'm crazy. You'll prejudge me on this. But what do you think the UFOs, and particularly the extraterrestrials who will be on board, Dolly, have with cryptids? What do you think they're looking for in regards to these species?
I think they know every last one of them. That's what I think. I've seen a lot of really odd things coming and going from them, from this planet or other planets in our universe. They move things around. They're almost like the biggest ecological worried about the environments of everybody, and they rescue animals all the time. And I've seen some pretty wild, wacky animals. And then when Preston was telling me about all the people who see stuff here and start describing them, yeah, some of them I've actually seen on board a craft. The Wolfman kind of guys I've seen, okay? And it's just another type of animal. Some of them are very sentient, very intelligent, very advanced, and some are not. Some are just like evolving. And it's real interesting to think about how many things they've brought here and just tried it out to see in our environment if they do well or not. And then if they didn't, they take them off. It's a thing. They do that. And you all take the front row seat of it,
By the way, we're working on symmetry too. I've just started doing interviews with Dolly because there's some aspects we didn't cover, and this is part of it. I was just talking to her about dolphins being taken on board and the ETs working with them. We're going into some of the USO activity and stuff that's in the oceans that we are not aware of.
Hold right there, Dolly Safran, Preston Dennett. We got them till the top of the hour on Spaced Out Radio. Coming up next on the Mighty SOR. Next half hour is next.
You're
listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. Another brilliant piece by Dirty Filth.
I love it.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that jellyfish.
I'm a
UFO.
UFO.
Knows it. He's confident in himself. Everybody should be confident in what they do.
Well, he's like the little I think I can train.
Yeah. It's amazing. He looks a little out of it at the same time. Like, dude, I am a UFO. What are you asking me? Very
Talk
cool.
about aliens and complex issues.
Don't worry, his friends are watching him anyways.
Yeah.
Look at these out. Nice walk out on the street there. Got the little Mothmen around the lamps.
I see that.
Ruckus. Look at that. No garbage anywhere. Everybody puts their garbage away because Sasquatch always recycles his empties.
Wow.
Oh, dude, you are making me laugh tonight. This is awesome. That is
I
an
know,
awesome.
I see a little UFO in the background too. Another one. Little bubble head. Oh my goodness.
Sasquatches hanging out there too.
Yeah, I like your color palette too.
Try to go nice and simple. Just
I would put this on my kid's wall. I'm not kidding. If my daughter was still young, I'd say, I want to get a print of that. I'm gonna make some wallpaper look like this. This is cool.
crap wallpaper.
That's our filthy right there.
What a way to terrorize a bunch of children.
Nah, my
Here's a
guys.
little UFO and aliens, or you could have playoff Sasquatch.
Oh, look. Hey, the same UFOs visiting him too. Very nice.
Well, it is playoff season.
Yep. Oh my goodness.
But we gotta go back to the little jellyfish UFO. It came out there blazing, everybody was talking about it, and it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
True. I wonder what happened to that one.
Went back to the ocean where it belonged. Going around with all the other alien jellyfish saying, hey, I was able to get on Jeremy Corbell's good side.
There you go. Listen, there's some pretty cool stuff way, way, way down in the oceans that are phenomenal. They look like their own little UFOs down there,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the variation in the ocean is far greater than it is on land.
Yeah.
It's going to be a biologist.
If we've got alien species that live underwater on Earth, they've been there for thousands of years. If they have other planets similar to Earth, and those similar alien beings have lived underwater on those other planets.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much out there, and humans they don't have a clue, really. Well, maybe they do, some of us. I can't really speak for all humans, so I redact my previous statement. I don't have a clue.
Just run with it, Dirty. Run with it.
Really? Preach it. It's amazing how many all animals are sentient. Don't get me wrong. They say instinct is what drives them. Well, we have instincts too, and they don't want to admit that. But that's the basis of all intelligence, is built-in instinct in your brain, telling you what you need to know beforehand before you start the learning process to evolve out those instincts and use them properly in all your senses. And there are some animals like the octopus that are making us look like dummies. They're very, very intelligent. And now they know that they're self-aware. That's a biggie, okay? Most animals, you put a mirror up in front of them, they'll freak out, just to have a heart attack. But I can't say the word.
Oceanographic.
Thank you. It's the sweet me. I keep getting certain words on. Are some of the smartest animals on this planet, and say, well, they have to be. It's a very intolerable environment. Not true. We're cunning. They're cunning. They're no dumber than we are. They are self-aware, most of them. You put a mirror up in front of a dolphin, and he'll look at himself and go, "Hey, dude, I look good." Whales are the same way. it just amazes me how people don't put this together in their minds and understand that intelligence is intelligence. They have brains, they have eyes, they have all their senses as well, and they learn like we do. And yet they feel separated from them somehow. They got the same DNA we do. It's just dialed up a little differently. Hell, you got more DNA involved with a banana than you do a chimpanzee. And the only thing that exceeds a banana on this planet is a bonobo, which we're on 99.4% related to. But they don't talk about that, you know?
And on that note, I'm going to get a hold on to say thank you to Big Tex, Sasquatch Guy, Ozzy Ange, Melvin, and W. Decker for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. If you want to support us as well, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store at our website. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Here we go with the next half of the show right now. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you're looking for our archives, they're always free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. We're on every major podcast network as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Preston Dennett, Dolly Safran, we have until the top of the hour. UFOs and cryptids. Can the two be linked together? I think they are. I really do believe that they are. There's too many instances that have happened. And I was telling a story last night with Samantha Mowat because she was in on this story where we actually had an encounter last year in the daylight, 7 of us, while we were filming a project at Canada's largest unsolved mass murder, which was a plane crash about 25 miles out of my town back in 1965. And we had an interaction there was 2 Sasquatch that we heard. And the second one, it was almost like it was a warning that there was a UFO and aliens on the ground. I saw the UFO. The rest of the team saw the 2 aliens walking.
Amazing.
I think that the Sasquatch, really are warning us that there are other beings in the field. And you know what? I'm assuming here, turn up the woo level just a little bit, just a tad on the knob from 6 to 7. Okay, I'm assuming here that what we're seeing is we are seeing the Sasquatch or other cryptids have the same reaction that we do when we don't want to be taken. We don't want it. Being taken, sometimes it's fun, but other times it's not. And I think they were warning us, saying, hey, humans, be careful. We got aliens out here. What's your thoughts on that, Dolly?
That's kind of possible, actually. You got to ask yourself why. What would the reason be? And it might have been that they didn't want them interrupted, and they were warning them that they were there, hoping that would turn them in the opposite direction. Probably, I don't know. It is highly possible that's true. One of the things that I learned growing up, from my 20s up, and I was asking questions about all this, is that I heard somebody discussing the fact that maybe they're the watchers on the planet, like the mantids, like they're hands on the ground, and they keep an eye on the condition of the planet, how we're treating it, pollution, stuff like that. That they're actual informants on the condition of us and our planet. And I actually put that to Talata, and he said, yes, that's one of the things that they do for us. And I thought, wow, if you're an advanced civilization and you don't want to bug anybody and you need eyes on the ground, that would be a good way to do that. And I think that that's part of the role that they play here, And,
yeah, I was looking into one UFO case on Lake Okanagan. I think that's what it's called in Canada.
Yep. About 4 hours south of me.
Yeah, it's a really interesting UFO case where this was a USO And the whole family, they had gone to take a ferry across the lake. And they're like, look at that boat. That does not look normal. And so suddenly it zooms across the lake, rises up into the air. It's it's a UFO. The whole dock is looking at it. Everyone's freaking out. This goes back, lands on the lake, goes off. Well, Lake Okanagan is famous for its Ogopogo. And I have to wonder about that because I was looking into that area, and there's a lot of UFO activity there, not just a little bit.
At the south end of Okanagan Lake, there is a city called Penticton. And somewhere in the mountains, Penticton is kind of in this valley of mountains, desert mountains. And somewhere in there in those mountains, there is what they call a UFO highway, where almost every night you can go out to this UFO highway and see these orbs of light streaking in between the mountains. Much like if you go on YouTube and you watch a lot of these fighter jets when they go flying through the mountains, they call it the Mach loop over in Europe and things like that. That's what it's like apparently in Penticton. It is an absolute hotbed of activity out there. So you're on the right track.
Yeah, there was another guy I interviewed, Stan Hughes. He'd take his whole family up to Lake Pend Oreille on the Idaho Panhandle, and they would watch these objects over the lake. If you look into lakes, any of these big lakes, because I started looking at lake monsters, because California has like 4 or 5 lakes with pretty good, solid reports of lake monsters. Lake Tahoe, of course, Lake Elsinore, Elizabeth Lake. There's a few of them. And there's UFO encounters going on there as well. So I wonder about that. What is a cryptid anyway? It's a creature that hasn't been accepted by mainstream science. That's all. It's not anything mysterious or paranormal any more than we are paranormal. We all have an interdimensional aspect to them. It's just something we don't fully understand. It makes perfect sense to me that all of this stuff is related. And like Dolly says, ETs are aware of all of these things. We're just starting to dive deep into some of what Dolly's been told about these kind of things. And that's going to come out in Symmetry too. And I'm excited about it. But yeah, lake monsters is another thing we haven't even really touched on because they're all over the place.
Oh, yeah, they are. They are. What makes lake monsters so special towards UFOs?
Well, there's the whole USO phenomena. I think that's intriguing. I mean, to me, it's really intriguing because USOs are super hard to investigate because you have to dive down there and see what's down there. And how are you going to do that? Especially when these objects can move around so fast, come in and out of the water, and evade you so easily. And the same is true, let's face it, for these lake monsters.
I think they're dinosaurs. Honest to goodness. I think they're leftover dinosaurs. Just different kinds that haven't been, gone extinct yet, and they're just living down there, having a good time. I love dinosaurs. I want them to be dinosaurs.
The interesting part about the Ogopogo is they had the start of Okanagan Lake is one of the starts to the Columbia River. So there's a large breeding ground of white sturgeon that get up to great white shark size in the lake. And I interviewed a guy from Kelowna, which is right on Okanagan Lake, the main city. And he believes that this creature uses caverns to go from lake to lake to lake, but also has wings where it can fly off and do its own thing.
That was the same thing with the Lake Elizabeth monster, which has multiple reports. It's not just one or two. The Indians wouldn't go near it. The Native Americans, they considered it cursed. And ranchers would move away because this thing would come up out of the water and eat their cattle. And, the last report was, I think 18 something or other, 1870 or 90, somewhere around there. And it's not a huge lake, but there's another lake near it called Bottomless Lake. And there's all these, lots of little lakes in this area. I think there's definitely something to it that some of these things are connected. There's been a lot of speculation about that with Loch Ness. So, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Do you think that a lot of these cryptids, and this is such a hypothetical question, so I don't know if it's smart to ask it or not, but I'm going to anyways. Do you think a lot of these cryptids were dropped off here on this planet, or do you think the cryptids are natural to here, Dolly?
I think some of them are natural, but a lot of them have been dropped off. ETs move things around a lot. There's reasons for that because there are different solar systems in our galaxies that might be going through some really bad things, and they're trying to save the animals, and they have to bring them to the closest place that can support life for them. And that's why they get dropped off here. And there's so many of us now. How can you miss it? And it's being reported over and over and over again in the last 50 years. It's really cool. And then we have some animals that are natural to here that blow people's minds when they see them. I'll give you, for example, there's a grouper-like fish that lives in the ocean that has a face like a human being. And it's ginormous, and it has teeth just like we do. Big blue eyes, and loves human beings who are diving, who are, getting different types of mollusks and things like that and opening up to feed them. Their tail way back of them looks like a mermaid tail. They're white, but they have this beautiful golden reddish, beautiful mermaid tail on them. And you look at them and you go, wow, that's because our DNA is so close that things occur. And that's an animal from here. And if you want to call that a cryptid, I would, because it's an animal that's natural to this planet, has been in our oceans forever, but we're just now starting to see it. And I think that's what a lot of cryptids are here. We're just starting to see them for real because there's so many of us and we're everywhere and we all have cameras. But there are some things that were dropped off. And I'll give you one that I know was dropped off long before you were born or anybody else. There's an animal that lives in Africa that don't belong there. It's in the wrong environment. It's in the wrong gravity, and yet it survives really, really well. It does well here, and you'll never guess what it is. And there are different types of them. They have different ethnicities, and it would be giraffes. They didn't come from here. They are not native to this planet at all. And ET dropped them off about 14,000 years ago. They're real, and people don't even think about it. They have all the stuff to survive here, and yet they're vulnerable in other ways. And they would do way better if they had less gravity on them and less predators, but they do fine, so they leave them here. That's
funny you say that, because the giraffe in particular drove the evolutionists crazy. Lamarck was really against evolution. He thought that the giraffes got longer necks because each one would stretch their neck over each succeeding generation to eat the leaves. And that's how it all happened. Yeah, I remember learning evolution in school thinking, what about giraffes? How could that possibly be the same as this little lemur that came up, this little fish that crawled out of the sea? Sea serpents, that's another one. If we had had cameras 200, 300 years ago, we would have absolute proof of these giant sea serpents with giraffe-like heads, eyes as big as dinner plates. There are 30 or 40 reports up and down the California coast of these giant sea serpents from Monterey Bay all the way down to Long Beach. I mean, you name it, down to San Diego. A lot of them. Some really high credible reports too. These things are so big that there would be swells in the water, and this thing's not moving. It's the swells are going around it. This is many, many tons. And would
the
rise.
Cadborosaurus.
Yeah, I think there's probably some still out there. Who are you going to tell? Who would believe you? Man, oh man, I'd love to see some footage of one of those.
But you look at the West Coast. You have the Cadborosaurus. You have mermaids. You have mermaids all around North America and around the world. There is a lot of cryptids and USO sightings around. I had a friend of mine who spent 5 years at the Canadian Navy. And he was telling me one time how they were about 20, 30 kilometers off the shore of the west coast of BC, and they were heading to Alaska. and it was in the middle of the night, and him and his other partner were on radar duty as they're heading to Alaska, and they pick up, 150 miles away, this object on radar. And as they are heading north, this thing is getting closer and closer, like it's flying at top speed of a jet fighter. And that's what they were looking for. They were thinking, wow, there's a jet fighter coming on in. And this thing whizzed past them, stopped, circled around the boat, and then took off again. And when they were about to write the report, because immediately they had to get their captain up to say, hey, this is what we saw. The captain's like, don't even write it up. Just let it go. You never saw anything, because they didn't want the paperwork. They didn't want, the captain, it doesn't want to lose his ranking and his stature, because two guys on radar duty in the middle of the night, probably drinking too much coffee, saw a UFO. But this thing,
You know what? That's a cover story. I'm sorry. I'm going to call it. I'm calling it. Every one of those boats has camera systems on them that can pinpoint a missile coming 5 miles out. Okay. They have optics that are incredible. They have sound that is incredible. They know what's up there. They know what's underneath them. They see it all. That is a cover story. No. Well, that's just to make you think something else. Smoke. That's all.
We're going back to 1981 Canadian Navy.
They've had that ability since the 50s. They've had camera ability since the 50s. Don't doubt it. It's true. Those fighter jets with those weird little cameras? Do you know that there are at least 10 cameras on every fighter? Okay, and some of them are HD, 1080p, better than you can imagine, full color, 3D practically, taking film, and they show you the one gunnery camera, because that's all that one is doing is targeting. That's it. That's what that camera's for. But they've got 8 or 9 other cameras on that craft, on that jet, that's filming it. This is the truth. This is what people need to understand about what's real and what's not real. When you get smoke stories like that and you say, well, that just doesn't seem real to me, because how can they not know? Oh boy, do they know. And they have film better than anything you've ever seen, and you won't see it until they disclose. And I don't think they're going to. NASA said that they lost all the film from the moonshots. No, they didn't. They moved it. Don't doubt it for a minute. That's a million.
No, I didn't believe that for a second. That one made me laugh, actually.
No, if you're in the military, you know what they are capable of doing. And trust me, they can see you from space and read your newspaper. Don't doubt that for a minute.
They know there's stuff down there. You're at. I talked to one guy, by the way, who was on a boat and saw what he thought were whales coming up beneath his boat. But there were so many of them. He's like, what's going on here? One of them finally came up, and it was a disc. He's like, he must have seen 30 or 40 of these things down there. And it wasn't a creature. It was a UFO. And there was a bunch of them. This was near the Channel Islands area. Man, there's so much stuff going on down there. I don't think we have any idea what's really going on in our oceans.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And in regards to the camera, I remember being at the Abbotsford Air Show in 1986, where they landed an SR-71 Blackbird and I lived in Abbotsford. I was born and raised there. Wow. And I remember this was just the most incredible story. They were on the phone with the pilot, or on the radio with the pilot from the cockpit, who said, Abbotsford, I'll see you in 26 and a half minutes, from Beale Air Force Base in California. And at 26 and a half minutes later, the announcer for the air show comes on, and he's like, okay, we're going to shut the flight line down. We're waiting for the arrival of the SR-71 Blackbird. And everybody is facing south, because the airport is literally about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the United States. And everybody is facing south, looking towards the U.S., and the pilot from the Blackbird comes in afterburner right over the crowd from the north to south while everybody's looking south. Everybody just jumped. But the cool part about it was they were talking about how the camera on the SR-71 was so sophisticated. At 80,000 feet, it could read the name of a golf ball on the 18th green of our local golf course.
You know why VH cameras got weeded out? Because their zoom capabilities and the clarity of those cameras was so good they couldn't have it. They didn't want anybody to have the ability to use that kind of a camera anymore, and they took them off the market and put digital up. VHS takes very good, clear pictures, and you can transmit VHS signal anywhere. You don't need the tape. You just be able to transmit the signal, and that's what the military uses. They've got stuff you wouldn't believe. Unbelievable optics. Yep.
There's Trixie on my little seat there.
Yeah, that's our cat.
Yeah, she's the boss of the house.
Yeah.
We have just under 4 minutes to go here with you guys tonight, Dolly and Preston. And it's always so much fun when you guys are here because the conversation starts off one way and then ends up in some different tangents that are so much fun. What do you want people to know, Preston, about UFOs and cryptids? Are we going to be seeing more reports of this? If people are cryptid hunting, should they keep their eyes open a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of cryptids out there. I don't think we've have any idea. You know, the great apes were just unknown for a long time. And to find out, you know, the platypus and all this stuff, some of this is relatively recent. There's stuff out there we probably haven't seen or even heard of. And I think that we still got a lot to learn about them. And if we could, you know, I'm going to be part of an event here called Befriending Bigfoot in upcoming May. If we could develop an interactive relationship with Bigfoot, because there are people out there who say that they've done this, and they're very shy about talking or bringing anyone to their property for obvious reasons, because that could lead to big problems for these Bigfoot. But boy, if we could just open this subject up, that would be so amazing. I think people need to know this is real, that we need to respect them, definitely. But yeah, that would be my main thing. It's real. And don't try to hunt them or kill them, but learn about them and respect them.
Right.
And Dolly, how about yourself?
There's going to come a day not too far in the future where we might actually need their help to survive. You know, every time something cataclysmic happens, they're probably all around and people don't even realize it. And if they knew that they could get help from them, they should try. But they're not going to help us as long as we keep aiming guns at them. And we do. And it's sad to me. There are a lot of people like you who really respect this subject and want to be informed about them and even make contact with them and have some sort of rapport. And that there are others that I've met who actually walk around with loaded, you know, guns and hunt them and then put them in their freezers. And they're psychic. They know this. And I wish people would just, you know, treat all animals with respect, especially the cryptid animals that we haven't had a lot of contact with, because you don't know what they're capable of. And you should understand that they've been surviving in the wilds of the world with no help. We might need that technology from them someday. It's important. Think about it.
It's tough to think about, though, for a lot of people, because it sounds, Dolly, so unrealistic.
I don't know.
It happens.
These animals are all over the planet, and they come in different shapes and sizes just like we do, and yet they survive the wilds better than we do. You know, we're very fragile creatures. We freeze to death easily. We waterlog easily. We break easily. I mean, there's a million reasons why we aren't really suited for the kind of lives that they lead. And what happens if our grid goes down?
There's lots of cases of Sasquatch helping people, leading them out of the forest. I have a personal case, Susan Alloway. I interviewed her in my book, Humanism and High Strangeness. She and two friends were led out of the wilderness by a Bigfoot when they became lost. Bigfoot has lifted branches, you know, logs off of people, led people back to their campsite after getting lost. There was a girl who was lifted up, someone who got snake bit. So they will help people.
Preston, do me a favor. Tell everybody where they can find your website.
My website is prestondennett.weebly.com. Also got a YouTube channel. My books are on Amazon. Dolly and I do the Light Gate each Monday evening from 9 to 11 Eastern. And yeah, I'm all
Right
over social media. Easy to find.
It's on Amazon, and he's got a new book out. I'm going to plug it. It's Not From Here, #5.
Beautiful. Dolly Safran, Preston Dennett. Hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. Stay tuned, everybody. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. Thank you, friends. Appreciate you.
Always a pleasure. Yeah.
Always, my man. Always. You guys are the best. And always appreciate anytime you come on. We'll talk to you.
And you're welcome. If you're ever out this way, you got to look us up, okay? You're welcome. We got a guest program.
I will be in Nebraska next week.
Oh, wow. That's how far is Nebraska from us? Let's see. We're in Georgia. Blah, blah, blah. Is Nebraska's
It's pretty far.
Yeah. I don't know. Are you driving?
No, I'm flying.
Oh, okay.
And one of these days, we want to get you on our show, Dave.
Anytime.
Yes.
Anytime.
Oh, good, because we're going to hold you to it now. All right. Let's talk dates, okay? All right.
Take care, guys. Good
You
night.
too.
Dolly Safran and Preston Dennett, everybody. We love them around here. How awesome are they? I'll be right back. And yes, Joe, I got a new passport. I never found the old one. I got a new one. I'll be right back. All right, I am back. Travis is in the hot seat. Hi, Chris. How you doing? Excuse me. All right. Big thank you tonight to Big Tex, Sasquatch Guy, Ozzy Ange, Melvin, and W. Decker for the super chats. Good evening, Noble Patrick. Good to see you. If you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell, or if you're listening on X, do us a favor and hit that follow button. We'd greatly appreciate the love and support, everybody. It kind of helps us out with all the algorithms and things that we got to deal with. So we'd appreciate that. Yeah. What a great show it's been so far. Great show. I know you were trying to move the chair, Tessa. I appreciate that. Well, let's see. Where do we go here? And here we go. Here we go with the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can also check us out on any major podcast network. Hello to everyone tuned in on our terrestrial affiliates, everyone. And don't forget, the Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Secundo Genitor. Secundo Genitor is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night we say hello to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and Another Creepy Story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their story. Great Bear Wilderness area in Montana on May 4th, 2017. Donnelly was only supposed to be gone on an overnight camping trip, but didn't return. The search and rescue mission was launched on the 6th of May. Realizing she wasn't in the right place on the first night, she became lost and wandered farther into the wilderness and away from her vehicle. Thinking if she just stayed on the trail she was on, she would eventually make it back to her car, she walked for hours and ended up at a lake. Knowing that she was far from where she should be, she stopped there for a while. Even though she had no shelter and was lightly dressed, Conley had to seek shelter under the trees at night and share body heat with her dog. Not realizing the media attention the case was getting, the last day she thought she would make it back to her car, go for a Coke, and return to her uncle's house. In fact, several search and rescue teams had already begun looking for the woman. She was found safe on Mother's Day, a search and rescue team, 2 Bear Air Rescue, and was lifted to safety. Conley was visiting family in Montana on her way to a job at a bakery in Alaska. The dog, Mogi, was also found alive, and they were reunited the next day after Conley was released from the hospital. Conley claims that without the dog to keep her warm, she probably would have perished. Next, we have Lost in Canada, the story of Annette Poitras. 56-year-old British Columbian dog walker Annette Poitras went missing after falling on a hike and knocking herself unconscious. Poitras left her house with Bubba, Roxy, and Chloe for a little walk in the woods when she slipped and fell, hitting her head. In the fall, she also lost her phone and gloves. She doesn't remember how long she was out for, but when she came back around, she had to go find one of the 3 dogs that had wandered off while she was knocked out. After finding the dog, she tried following the BC Hydro power lines, but was too weak. By her second night being lost, over 100 search and rescue personnel were raised, and people were out looking for her and the dogs. Her third day in the elements was her last. Rescuers heard one of the dogs barking and was able to find Potress and her furry friends all alive and well. She spent a week in the hospital due to exposure from the elements, and in an interview she said she didn't think she would have survived one more night in the elements. Annette Potress was able to turn her ordeal into a novel. Author Anne Bruin spent an entire week with her family while writing the novel based on the recollection of Potress about the 3 days she spent missing in the BC wilderness. The name of the book is 3 Dog Nights and covers both the missing woman's perspective as well as that of her family. I would have probably died without the dogs, Potress said. They kept me going and they kept me warm.
And thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing on YouTube for another great story. If you want more just like that, head on over to youtube.com/Among the Missing, and you can get more from Steve right there as we speak. From the missing to the mysterious, it's time for Travis Willier-Mustus, the Cree legend hunter, and the Cryptid Report. Travis Willier-Mustus from north of Edmonton, Alberta, in the Cree Nation, who literally is a monster hunter going out to help the elders, the people of his reserve, and others clear the way of all the monsters and legends that might be terrorizing them or just downright curious. Deals with aliens, cryptids, ghosts, everything that can you imagine. And Travis, it's always good to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, it's been excellent. And thanks for having me back on, dude. How's it going for you?
I am doing great, man. You know what? I'm getting the itch. I'm really getting the itch to get back out in the forest. You know, it's that time of year, but you know, it doesn't help when yesterday we had a snowstorm here and it snowed again a little bit today. It's mid-April. We don't need more snow at this point. Well, we do because it's really dry out. So I'm not complaining too much, but it's April. Turn the snow off already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was kind of it was a weird kind of like I think it was like it wasn't muddy enough the spring, you know what I mean? So it just had to create some form of just another blanket of snow to create all the wet, mud around the area. But anyway, my my thought the same thing too. I was getting all ready to be outside and taking photos and videos of the skies and setting up new cameras and things like that, right? And then here we go. Bam, just like that overnight.
Oh, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible how it happens. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to our previous guests here on SOR tonight, Dolly Safran and Preston Dennett, but they are doing research on something that I know you're very familiar with. And this is the parallel between cryptids and UFOs. Is there a lot of interaction, or have you dealt with a lot of interaction of cryptid and UFO sightings simultaneously or within a day or two apart?
Well, I definitely feel like it's there's certain ties to it, right? It's a lot of connection. Sorry, am I coming?
Yeah, your audio has gone a little bit robotic there. So yeah, he's just fixing his audio here as we continue on. So we will get going here because Travis is so knowledgeable about this stuff.
So, yeah, I was just going to say that, yeah, there's definitely ties to it all. The connection's there. Whether it's connection with the ETs or if it's connection through the Bigfoot, it all depends on the time and who's, the time of the universe and who's connecting with them, right? the ETs and extraterrestrial, I feel like, are always around and always, there on many levels. And I feel that their connection is very strong with those who are, looking to build that interconnection with them. And it's and the same thing with the Bigfoots and the cryptids. It's kind of it's interesting because life is very interesting like that, and what we are connected with, and what we are, what are our spirit animals and things that are looking out for us out there on the other side is very interesting. But it is all connected, definitely.
All right. If it is all connected, is it the UFOs and the ETs on board that are coming here to look for the cryptids, or are the cryptids calling them in?
Well, all right. So you have the dimensional, reality extraterrestrials, which are from another reality that just dimensional over, like into our dimension, and then our warp tunnel or warp drive over, however you want to put that. But and then you have the other ones that are ultra terrestrials, and those are ones that are like on higher dimensional frequencies. Those are flowing through the universe and energy, like spirit forms, and connecting on that energy level. And then you also have that goes for other ways too. That also goes for the dark side too. That same thing with the other aliens and extraterrestrials that are dimensional, like whether or not they're good or bad. And they're still part of the universe as a whole, just like as we are. And then you have the interdimensional ones, the ones that are able to connect you through the energies and through your dreams and meditations and your remote viewings and astral projections. And it's a very it's a unique thing to what are we asking, right? Like like what are we connecting with, right? Like it's and how we're connecting with them. It's because I've experienced a lot of them. The dimensional ones that you see in the skies, and then I've seen the ultra terrestrials, the ones in the lodges and the healing ceremonies, and then you get the ones that are interdimensional ones that come visit you in sleeps, and the ones that come visit you in these astral projections and remote viewings, and that come to literally bring you visualizations and messages through them, more or less than speaking to you. But when you get them in interdimensionally and internally, and you get them in your sleep, or they're speaking to you, or they're giving you these amazing visualizations of, it's preparing you for that dimensional experience. That's ahead for all of us, I should say, that are experiencers are looking to be connected with that reality. So just figured I'd say that.
And I understand that, but what reality are they in compared to ours?
All right, so their reality, it's pretty interesting reality. Like the dimensional reality, like it's a place from which they can actually just it's like all separate reality. They can see all separate realities, and but they're all happening at once. So they could pick which one, and also down the time frame, and it's like there's really really no like up or down or any linear kind of time frame like that, right? So it's just like but it's all happening around them, and they can choose which one to go into. And some are so there are like different levels to it, right? So like it's like the easiest way I try to explain it is like when you open up your video file, say your movies and your memories of the past, pictures, and you click on those pictures, and you see like from 10 years ago yourself. Well, it's like the way they see all the versions of your reality from 10 years ago and beyond and more, and they can select which one they want to go to at any specific given time. And that's why they say on that level that they're from in realities, there's no time frame. There's the spirit world has no time frame. There's no no connection to that, not like ours.
No, and I can see and understand that. Do the cryptids then hang out with the UFOs and ET beings, or are they afraid of them much like humans are?
All right. Yeah. And then you have other beings like cryptids and and their sector of like their connection to the worlds and their connection to their own places and where they go which is still remains a lot of a mystery to most, but like I said, the little people, when they take you, it's usually to their realms or inner earth and things like that. When it comes down to like Dogman and usually you don't come back, you know, especially with the other one too, the unmentionable one. Usually people, you don't, if you see them, you're, you know what I mean? You have to deal with them or else you're not going to, you know, escape them kind of deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're kind of, back then you have to kind of deal with them then or else you're not going to, you know what I mean? It's like, you don't usually live to tell the tale. Like you have to fight them, you know? And so there's these things like, especially with Dogman, if it's like a malicious one, then that's like, you know, they're coming from a darker realm, and usually those chaotic realms, they'll just tear you apart and eat your whole life essence. You know what I mean? And so what I'm getting at is, and with like messengers and tricksters and stuff like that realm, that comes from the higher realm. That comes from a very spiritual, connected realm. Like I said, it's through the universe. It's the, you know, it's the energy that connects all, and usually the trickster spirits are on that level, and they come down and they'll have messages for people, and like sometimes those people will be shapeshifters, and like the trickster will be shapeshifters, and they'll actually be like half man, half dog, or like the dog will have like human, like, you know, legs, but he'll be like half like hide pants, you know what I mean, and like moccasins, and you know, but he'll have like a wolf body and talk to you like a wolf, or sorry, talk to you like from the wolf's head, right? But it's a human voice, you know, and but standing upright, like anatomically like a human, right? And, you know, arms down at its side. And so like what I'm getting at is there are some like that, but those are usually like messages and things, you know, like people have to hear, or they're on a spirit quest, or, you know, on that kind of level. But yeah, so like those, when people have those kind of tales, are usually like because there was a message and they're bringing it back to tell or share their experience. So they'll draw it on that place where they had the vision. So you'll get these cave rock markings next to where these spirit beings are able to cross through from the like from the portals, the gateways to the other spirit realm. They came through, right? And they came through to see him because he honored them with his you know, his energy being there and putting it forward to them, like, you know what I mean, to be honoring them with that ceremony and that prayer, and to, you know, be humble enough to receive the graces of that blessing and that vision and the blessings of life, you know, to be grateful for life, and that's you know, those things are like when people see those markings in those areas, it's not just to draw the monsters and creatures. It's like what came to bring forward the message for that person or the people at that time, are what's watching over.
We got about 6 minutes to go before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Sorry, I got a little frog in my throat. Travis William-Moostus is our guest tonight on the Cryptid Report. Travis, as we move forward with the idea between UFOs and cryptids, are a lot of these creatures that are here now, are they dropped off by the UFOs and they're checking up on them, or are they natural to Earth and it's something that the UFOs are investigating?
Well, some of them, some of the animals, a lot of the animals, like the ancient cryptids and stuff, they actually have a lot of ties to a lot of the experiments done in other ancient cities of the past that were, you know, very heavily extraterrestrial or like oriented, and more or less like where the visitors often landed and did their, you know, I should say, they came down with their knowledge and, you know, with their people and their ships and their crafts and yeah, like from all over the, you know, parts of our universe and our galaxy, and they'd come visit us and visit our ancient people, ancient ones of the past, and a lot of like, there's a lot of talk about like how that would be, right? But there are some that, like, legends that talk about how I should say, like, some of the Pleiadians even would like, they themselves were very interested in like I should say, like they were very interested in these birds and beings, and they were actually hybridization, like they were creating like a beautiful, like they themselves like were able to become like with the power of a shapeshifter and learning the energy and the ways of the connection. They themselves all became like white hawks and different kind of animals. Like one of the Pleiadians became like a white moose, and a few other like white rabbit and white fox and different animals that are able to change the colors and during the winter and have that pelt change. But like I said, it was so like with these animals that were looked at very ceremonially in high regard, like they like they're like the elders. They came down from the skies and they changed into these animal forms and watching over us, right? So when we see those like the spirit moose, like white moose or white buffalo or white, usually it's representation of higher elders that have came down from the skies or changed form, and they're there watching over us in a sense. You know what I mean? Or they're guiding us. So
I like that thought, but it still adds to the creepiness of the entire phenomena, because we see these creatures walking around. Eyewitnesses are seeing these around North America and the world on a daily basis. And yet here you are trying to put all the puzzle pieces together. What have you figured out about it all?
Well, that it's a lot of the natural ones and the balance of this of the lands, and some of them have been like I said, some of them are more like leftovers from like leftover experiments from the ancient times, and some of them are lost in dimensions, or some are able to hop over, like the dimensional grasshopper. I call them dimensional hoppers, and they're like a grasshopper being kind of styled. They're able to jump our realities anyway. But what I'm getting at is a lot of those and like different kind of dimensionals are just they're naturally connected through the world and the universe, and some just happen to end up here, and they're just as curious as to why they're there or here, and and sometimes it's a connection to us with our beings and who we are, and what our spirits once were, and the grand connection to all things in the universe. Some of us have some past as aliens, and then we're reborn as human spirits here on Earth. And then we still carry that extraterrestrial connection through us. So we may, bring forward that I should say evolution for the rest of the human beings in that connection, and so people will understand, and it'll be it'd be an easier process for people and not a misguided one, I should say. So that everybody yeah.
That's good. We got about a minute to go here before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Travis William Moostus is our guest tonight on the show. Travis, as people start to encounter more cryptids, because it's that time of the year where we start spending a little bit more time outside, getting our camping gear done, looking where we're going to be going, what are the signs, and we'll continue this in the next hour, what are the signs people should look for if they're in a cryptid area?
Yeah. If you start to see anything like if you start to see things that are out of the ordinary, like you start to see a lot of piles of animal bones and different kind of things, or things start to smell very rotten, that's when you start to think either a bear or a predator or some sort of kind of like wild, like when I say predator, like as in like a wild, bobcat animal, like big cat, or any kind of like, anything that can fight, big wolf, like anything that's going to maybe attack you. Right. So, and then, possibility.
Travis William Moostus continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this with the Cryptid Report.
Is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy, we are clear.
Woo! Yeah.
I'm gonna get you to come out and then come back in. We got to try and improve your audio a little bit because it's
All
coming
right.
robotic. Mm-hmm. We'll wait for him to pop back in because that's always a good thing to do. Try and get that cleared up. I'm going to eat ice cream after the show. Cotton candy ice cream. That makes me happy. I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow. Just trim a little bit of this so we don't have this stuff happening here. Oh, J.R. Amadeus. That's close. Thanks, Oob. Appreciate it. How's Lola? What's Lola doing? Is she laying down at your feet or is she chasing bears again? Oh, Tessa Marie. Don't tell me that. You have no idea my addiction to cotton candy. I will never give up cotton candy. Thank you, Paisley Parker. Kit Kat ice cream is good. Where are you in Canada, Sasquatch guy? Oh, I love that. I want some cotton candy, Tessa. Oh, you're in Calgary. Yeah, your Flames didn't make the playoffs, but my Oilers did. Just to rub it in a little bit. Yeah. Wait until we're lifting the Stanley Cup for number 6. It's coming this year. Chocolate cotton candy? No. I've never had chocolate cotton candy. Miss Tessa, I believe you need to be sending me some. Please reach out to me on Facebook. Facebook Messenger. Dave would like to try some of that chocolate cotton candy or whatever kind of cotton candy you want to send him. Dave loves his cotton candy, even though I don't know if it'd make it through the mail. Would it make it to British Columbia from wherever you are? Oh, Fun Dips. I used to love Fun Dips as a kid. I'm getting free cotton candy from Jessica if I go to northern Minnesota, too. 30 years, Joe. It's a Gary Bettman conspiracy. It's 30 years this year since a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup. Thank you to Tex, Sasquatch Guy. Ozzy Ange, Melvin, and W. Decker for the super chats tonight. Miss Tessa, are you coming to Reno then? If you're in Northern California, Reno is like 2.5 hours away. Are you joining us in 3.5 weeks in Reno? You better. Bring the cotton candy with you. That's an order. Total order. Vancouver's too European to win the cup. They'll be out in the first round. Mark my words. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We're awaiting Travis William Moostus to return on the show because he's having some audio issues tonight that just don't work very well for radio. So he's trying to fix that on his end. We're hoping that he can get it done before the end of the show. But I want to just go over the whole UFOs and aliens aspect. And if you're in our audience on YouTube or X, hit us up with a question, put it in capital letters, and I will get to it while we wait. But my opinion is this. I think these cryptids, the majority of them, were either dropped off here or are longtime Earth citizens, if we can use that term. I think these UFOs and who is ever on board are trying to chase them down, much like they would cattle or deer or anything along those lines, humans, to abduct them. Now, they might not do cattle mutilations on Sasquatch or Dogman or little people or whatever it may be. I don't see them doing that. But I could see them taking these creatures to do studies. You know, that we've all heard these legends and stories, whether they're true or not, we really have no evidence. But we hear these legends and stories of people who have allegedly been on craft and are seeing Sasquatch and other creatures on the craft with them. And we've also heard reports that people who have had Sasquatch encounters, the minute some sort of UFO seems to fly over, this creature seems to take off and starts running away from the lights. All right, let's go to a question from Mike here. It's for Travis, but Travis isn't back yet. What is your spirit animal and how did it show itself to you? I can answer this question for me. I can. Oh, there's Travis there. My spirit animal is a mountain lion. And with that mountain lion, when I was in meditation, the mountain lion would bring its face right to me at about 2-3 inches from my face. I would see every different color of hair, the markings, the whiskers, the color of the eyes. I still don't know what that meant, but it felt very protective. Even though to this day I'm still scared crapless of mountain lions because they are just so unpredictable. And remember, when you're in a forest, don't be looking around you for the mountain lions. Look up in the trees. Travis, what would be your spirit animal? And how did it show itself to you? I got to mute you there, man. Your headset is even worse than your audio before. So let's lose that. You got to change the batteries in that one. You have to change the batteries. I'm telling you. Yeah. You literally sounded like an Ewok. Are you a cryptid Ewok, Travis William Moostus? Is that what you are? You're an Ewok?
Yeah, Bear Clan. There it is. Is it working better now? Or is it still bad?
it's a little bit better, but let's just run through it because people want to hear from you. They're tired of hearing from me.
Yeah, it is. I've had a few spirit protectors. Many different kinds, small and big. Like I said, it was very interesting because the medicine man used to say that I had a very strong beaver spirit there on my totem, and then another medicine man said I had a Goagon, dragon, and then I had a few other ones, elements and such. So, and it's still being discovered to this day. Like I know a raven, a few other things are in there, but like I said, it all happens when some people when they're on their ceremony, like out in the woods, and they're doing these ancient connections. Sometimes a bear will just walk up and come to meet them and grace them with a blessing like that, or a moose will come walking up, or wolves will come just sit, like surround the area and just sit with you. Like these different things will happen, and but at first they'll be they'll come walking up like scaring, like trying to scare you, right? To see it's like a test, right? And these different kind of things, but yeah, so in those ceremonies, so if you, like you said, like I was saying, with ceremonies and things like that, there's certain protections and connections with the universe, and it's part of the path and connection with the world, and so when you see these things in nature, or you're feeling connections to certain animals, and yeah, that's usually it's usually a deep sign of that. Also too, though, some animals are just connected for everyone, like they're there for a symbol for everyone, and a lot of them do bear symbology and sense of what they could, what they're saying, what the spirits are bringing, in good, I should say, in good blessings, or if they're watching over you, or if there's things to look out for. There's certain occurrences in nature that we see that tell us of these little, I should say, they're little telltale signs of the future kind of deal. And it's from the spirit, it's an animal world speaking to us. So there are some of those, and yeah, and what they're involved in.
I want to ask you about that because for myself, I feel very close to a mountain lion, although they scare the daylights out of me. I don't feel that with a bear, but I feel safer with a bear, like a black bear, not a grizzly, a black bear. And even though that's not my spirit animal, I still feel connected to it. Why would I have fear for what is my spirit animal and no fear for one that isn't?
No, I think it's a part of that self. It's one of those things, you discover, and you find more connection to it, and it reveals that part of you that maybe you're afraid of, in a good way. But you know what I mean? It should be a place where you find your connection, though. When you look at these animals and you're feeling connection to them, you should always look at how they're presenting themselves to you. Is it in a, what are they what are they trying to show you, right? How is the setting, what is the setting, right? And or what is the emotion or the thing that they're entailing, right? How often do you get that too is another question you should ask yourself, because if it's happening all the time, and these connections are happening all the time, then it's something there, right? It's definitely means something. And but yeah, no, I think it's a part of you, that you find out through spirituality and your connections. And usually these things, the fear is it's to build up that strength in you, so you could continue on in the world, and to have an animal like a cougar, or especially the one that you're currently seeing in your dreams. That kind, they don't ever walk the same path, so they always continue forward in life, and they never tread the same trail. And it's a very interesting one that you see. But yeah, so I just figured I'd mention that.
It's weird. It's totally weird when you actually come out of that. What about something like owls? Have you dealt with a lot of owls? Because owls seem to have everything. Like our logo for Spaced Out Radio is an owl. Why did we choose an owl? It's wise. It's of the night. It's predatory. It's smart. It's educated. It's an alien. There's a lot that goes on with owls that just make a lot of sense. Have you ever had to deal with owls?
Actually, yeah. There's a lot of meaning to owls in deeper ways that most don't understand. Well, there's a lot that people can't understand though. So let me just speak on the ones that we do know. White owls symbolize wisdom and vision of like I should say to understand the wise things of all, like because they could have that vision that goes 360 degrees. So it's to have that understanding through all perspectives and to carry that wisdom with you. And they're usually bringing forward messages at that time. So it's to pay attention to all your dreams and the things that are paying, like I should say, significance occurrences in your life at that time. But if you've seen black owls, like I should say, like there's some that are real, like a real, like they're kind of like I should say they're like blackish grayish owls. They're usually representations of like of death and stuff, right? So it usually means somebody's gonna pass away or whatever, right? But then you have other ones that are more or less about like the other ones are connected to spirit and they're wise. They're considered guardians, and these are like the like they're also black too, but they're like the brownish grayish ones, and they kind of have like the pointy ears, and these ones are like guardians, and they're considered like almost like luck and very, like I said, the wise. They carry that wise with them, and they're kind of like the warrior owls of all the, because like the owls, they do have their own like territories, and they do have fights in the woods, and they almost do like most of them do carry like a human kind of like a war cry. So when you hear the war cry of an owl, there's these wars going on in the woods. It sounds just like a human. They're like, it's real interesting stuff. And so you gotta know that too, right? Like how they sound, and but yeah. So, and then like I said, there's a lot of spiritual owls out there too, and like and all that too, right? So you just it all depends.
Have you ever dealt with cases on your land where people who are being abducted are first seeing owls, like 4 to 5 foot owls sitting in the trees, like they're waiting for them?
I can't say like that they've seen owls, but they've definitely told me about like strange, like they felt strange, like in the woods, like things or they heard strange about things going on in the woods, and they've had like they've woken up outside, or they've all of a sudden they're outside in the morning, like, how did I end up out here, or in the fields far away from their house and stuff, like, and like, what did I do,
Man, I couldn't imagine what that would be like. I mean, I've seen owls before. I just have never seen owls that big. And yet you hear reports from Alaska right down to Florida about people having these encounters with these giant owls. It's just scary.
Yeah, some of the bird beings can get like pretty huge in size, especially if there are people like are like beings like that are able to take form as them. You'll get these giant, more like giant like animals or big animals that walk and roam the forest. But it's these spiritual beings on a higher level, like I should say, just walking through the existence, or connecting with certain animals and places, and that's just how they take form for it, right? So what that means to that place, or how they mean to it in connection with those animals, or that moment in time, it's it's a matter for the universe, I guess.
What about other cryptid birds? Pterodactyls, thunderbirds, something that big. Have you ever had to deal with those?
Just ceremony wise, not I haven't had to like get my like hands dirty with any of those kind of like beings, but like especially like the Thunderbird was more like an honoring kind of thing. It was not really we never really had to deal with it, but we kind of just honored it and brought forward that energy and connection and stuff like that. So it was more on a respectful level with dealing with Thunderbird and the teachings and stuff like that.
Why is the legend of the Thunderbird such a strong legend?
Oh, it was like I said, the being like it was a protector, it was a guardian, like, and it answered, like it heard our connections through the universe, and it watched over our people, and in many different kind of ways, and like including fighting other ancient beings from, like, you know, I should say the experiments from other ancient cities of the past, and it really drove back all the reptilians under the ground and stuff that were trying to, you know, come down and attack us, or come up from the inner earth and attack us. So it did send them all back from, you know, it did win the war against them, and it comes through our ceremonies, and it brings forward a lot of healing, and that's in its ancient connection to the past and the beginnings of time, you know, as ancient as the mountains themselves, and we respect that connection and that truth of that being, and that's, you know, it's held in high regard for that. You know.
What other creatures do you find the UFOs and the extraterrestrials have a high interest in?
Ooh, yeah, that's a very good question. Other than human beings, you know, the extraterrestrials, you know, they've been interested in a lot of this, like the forest beings, like the animals, and the different kind of, I should say, the different plant life, a lot of the different minerals under the ground, and we always see them very interested in the mountains. So a lot of times they're very, you know, very much connected with that, and the lakes, the water. I see that the extraterrestrials are always like interested in our water, and so, but other than that, you know, like the extraterrestrials that come through spirit realm and spirituality and through ceremony are very much interested in seeing us evolve to their level, and evolving through spirituality and connection to the universe and understanding, and yeah, they're very much there to help us in times, and like I said, it's a lot of that is like preparing us for, you know, the future of our evolution, and as beings, and when we join our, you know, the sky, the level, like the life of the sky people, and the next level, I should say.
Considering we're getting into spring here very heavily now, and more people are going to be going outside, the cryptids that are out at this time of year, what could people have a chance at seeing?
Oh yeah, everything, like the forest, like despite the, like even the little I was just gonna say, despite the little snowfall we had, we still have a lot of like the birds and everything all back. So you can expect all the other animals and little insects like waking up. So they're, you know, all the bugs are back, and so you can expect all those little ones out there in the forest to be up and running around too. And you can expect all the other ones to be awake, like should already be woken up or waking up now, like all the hibernation animals. So they're, you know, preparing for that, and that's, I'm all hyped for that too. And the trees are wakening back up too. You see all the little springing buds out, so you know the spring's going to be here in the next couple of weeks. And like I said, I think it was just the way the earth was saying, hey, we need a little bit more water for the fishies, you know, so it just gave us a little bit more snow. So that's
but you bring up a good point there. As animals start to come out of hibernation and start to forage, and more animals come out to play, whether it's rabbits or gophers or wolves and foxes, we seem to have a lot more food running around for predatory animals, such as Sasquatch, Dogman, and others. Is this where they start coming out as well when the food sources start coming through?
Yes, and yeah, this is like a time of year too. Like like it's a mating season for a lot of animals as well. So of course, a lot of those other beings are coming out too for them, and yeah, it's I mean, like they're coming out to hunt them, and so it is that awakening of the whole forest and just that whole realm of beings that coming out forward, and they say that's when all the stories are coming back alive, and that's when all the legends are being told again, and a lot of ceremonies have to start happening again in spring because the frogs are out speaking again and things like that. The rivers are out, so it's just like it's just that old saying there with that, and so like when they it's like that time of year, the energies start taking form, the medicines start regrowing and coming back to the lands, and yeah, so it's a beautiful time. It's a beautiful time of the year, I should say.
I think it's wonderful. Springtime is my favorite, especially when the flowers just start to bloom and come up and show that new life again. Just a beautiful, beautiful message of Mother Earth. I could tell you that. Travis, thank you so much for coming back on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It is always a pleasure to have you here on the show for the Cryptid Report, and we will talk to you very, very soon. Always appreciate you being here, my man. And we get ready to wrap things up here in about 23 seconds. Want to just remind everybody that if you are heading to Reno, May 10th through 12th for a 3rd annual SOR fan party, make sure you let us know that you're going to be at the Silver Legacy Casino Resort, because we're always going to have a lot of fun with our fans, and we want you to have fun and be prepared. And let us know that you're actually there, so that way we can get things going on our end. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. That is done. Travis, will ye? Effin' Moose Toos. Travis, will ye? Effin' Moose Toos.
What's up, bud?
Not too much, my man. Not too much. Good to have you here again, brother. Always appreciate it.
Yes, it's excellent. Thanks for having me on again. I'm so happy I get to share on the platform and some of this wisdom and said a lot of that the views of it on views of it straight, and just kind of get my good point of view in there, and thanks for that, Dave. I appreciate it, man.
Oh, no problem, buddy. No problem. That's what we're here for. We'll talk to you next week, okay?
Yes, you and the viewers have a great night. See you guys all next week. Take care.
All right, Travis is out of the house tonight. We appreciate him when he's always on Spaced Out Radio. That was fun tonight. Just type in Travis Willier Moose Travis Moose or Travis Willier or TR3B. I don't know. I'm just teasing right now. All right. Boy, that was a little hot audio. I didn't even realize that. Let's bring this down a little bit. Holy cow. That's loud. Effects. We don't want to amplify. Normalize. See how that does. I'll take this light off. Light drives me nuts. So one light. The one light just drives me crazy. There we go. That's better. All right. Robert Anthony, how are you? Nice, Flat Six. So let's go get chased by them aliens and Sasquatch. How about that? Let's just cut through the chase and go get them aliens, buddy. Dino Bravo, how you doing? You want to set Joe off? Have a Bigfoot pull his hair. The pointy sticks will come out. Isn't that right, Joe? My weather hasn't changed. I Jedi. It's still got cold down to -40. My Oilers hat is upstairs. Since Y2K, since I've been up here in 9 years, my winter hasn't changed. My winter never changed when I lived near Vancouver because it rained all the time, because it's a natural rainforest, and that's what it does. Since I've come up here, the summers have been warm. The trees have gotten drier because that's what happens when they die. And sometimes people are callous, like fire tannerite in the middle of summertime and cause forest fires. Temperature hasn't changed here. Still have lots of water. Sometimes we've had a ton of snow. Other years we haven't had, like this year, as much snow as we need. But it's a balance of nature. And if you watch the Farmer's Almanac, they're pretty predictive in what they talk about. Good to have you here, Jessica Davenport. By the way, did Tessa Marie ever say if she was coming to Reno or not? I missed that. If she did. Somebody update me, please. No, it's not boomers, and we're not insulting generations here. Okay, you could take the woke stuff out. We don't do woke here. Okay. Yeah, the seasons change. That's called nature. Okay. Let me give you an example about getting taxed to death by a carbon tax here in Canada. Canada has over 318 billion trees. Each tree is responsible for about 48 pounds of pollution. It eats up 48 pounds of carbon dioxide. Okay. And these are stats you can find online. Canada's carbon footprint is 548 billion or million tons of carbon every year. Problem with that is that the trees eat up more than double of Canada's carbon footprint. So why do we need a carbon tax of 23%? And they're expecting, if Trudeau continues to get elected, that it's going to go up to about 63% total. People are starving in this country. People can't afford food. It cost me $35 for a deep and delicious cake and 2 small buckets of ice cream the other day. All because of this fake carbon tax. And Jedi, just so you know, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm not a boomer. So if you want to play that, let's play it, because I'm more than willing to play it. Yeah, and when you get Jedi, when you get China, India, and Russia under the banner of climate change, where people can barely afford to support their families, let alone worry about the environment, then we will change. Go look at the global statistics of climate change and who's causing over 80% of the world's pollution. It's 3 countries. 3 countries. So before you come in here and gripe at my audience and me, accusing me of being a boomer, which I'm not, let's do some homework and get things done. Let's not just spew what we see on a meme or a GIF or a reel on Facebook or TikTok. And number 2, I don't even know why we're talking about this subject, because this chat room is a non-political chat room. Oh, so that's my fault that you couldn't find us, so you unsubbed to the channel. Get the fuck out of here. Seriously. Seriously. Why are you here then? Why are you here? I don't have time to be blamed that you couldn't find us. Okay, we were right there. Right in the middle of the casino. All you had to do is walk to the elevator and go up. I don't forget anybody. You're here. I'm not going to waste my time. Lex Diaz, how you doing? All right, guys. It's that time of the night where I'm going to wrap things up here, mainly because I got to go to the bathroom. I got to pee. So, yeah. Too personal, I know. But, Dave, you can't. Thank you tonight to Big Tech, Sasquatch Guy, Ozzy Ange, Melvin, and W. Decker. And big appreciation to all of you for tuning us in. Thank you to our new subscribers, and appreciate you hitting subscribe, follow, and all that. But hey, not everyone's perfect. And this Gen Xer, not Boomer, Gen Xer, is going to say goodnight. Have a good one, everybody. See you tomorrow night. Our guest is Merle. Merle. Get ready to Merle it up tomorrow night. Get warmed up, people, because Merle returns on the show tomorrow. See you then.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.